my goodness.
I'll have 2 of those.
No, all day.
Welcome to the corner. I'm your host, and I'm your resident host, Anthony Cruz, and with me always is the man who can make the argument that lunch and lechon are pretty much the same thing.
You damn right.
Be incredibly convincing.
Nick Portela.
What's up? How's it going?
I'm psyched. We have 2 guests today.
Slow, man.
No. I jump into things.
How are you?
I'm alive, bro.
You feeling right? Your arm's okay?
No, my arm's still fucked up.
Calm the fuck down.
My arm is gonna be fucked up for the next month, bro. At least.
At least?
My arm is jacked up. Yeah, it is. I'm trying out for the Special Olympics though.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
I'm going for the Special Olympics. They said I can get in.
You can get in?
Yeah, I have to walk funny, but they said I'm gonna be okay.
You know what?
And the guy wanted me to repeat randomly. I didn't touch the pretty lady. I don't know why. That's what they told me.
Okay. All right. Maybe you should have started with them.
I told you.
Okay, we have 2 special guests this week, and I'm just my pleasure because this is a milestone for us. We have Lissette Torres and Adara. Yes, thank you so much.
He put my double out there.
Yeah.
Torres, her social security.
Police, if you're looking for her, is where she is. She's at 22.
The time is 9:33. So, I mean, this is the first one. We've had guests on the show. We've had 4 people, which was a new milestone we set a week or 2 ago.
That's right. We had that.
This is the first time we have females on the show. Thank you. You're pioneers.
You are pioneers. Our first time with females on the show, and females with a promising future.
Yes.
In the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I see future award winners here. And I see spoken word artists.
Oh, I hope.
Hashtag Lissette. I see some talent on this couch, man. I see some talent on this couch.
So if I hit the lottery, I'm out.
Well, I don't blame you. I would too. Yeah, talent be damned. That's a wrap.
Except when I said I get the lottery, she goes, "You're gonna take it with you."
Listen, I'll be content if you hit the lottery and buy me a drink. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with that.
I'm always down.
I'll buy you 2 things.
Oh, look at that. That's a big spender.
That's looking out for the little people.
That's looking out for the little people.
You know, we appreciate that.
Us PV podcasters over here. PV podcasters. We're trying to get that Joe Rogan viewership.
Joe Rogan viewership.
Trying to get that Joe Rogan, like 3 million people on podcast kind of viewership. You guys, are you familiar with Joe Rogan's podcast at all? Yeah, he does everything on that show. He has, because he's a commentator for the UFC, he has fighters, he has athletes, he has because he's also a stand-up comedian, so he has comedians, scientists, doctors. I mean, you'd be amazed the variety he has. That's something that one day I hope.
Yeah, I was mentioning that. I was talking with my sister yesterday about the different podcasts that are out there, because she listens to a few herself. But I'm like, Joe Rogan, he has everybody. It's not just fighters or anything like that. He just gets comedians, scientists, musicians. It's all open game for him.
Yeah,
it's interesting how you can go from comedian to scientist. Like,
right?
Yeah. There are science and comedy as well.
He had Mel Gibson on recently.
Some scientists are funny looking.
Yeah, that's true. He had Mel Gibson on recently.
He did actually.
And it wasn't even about him being as an actor.
Mel Gibson's still alive.
He's alive.
No, he made it.
Oh, maybe.
I didn't
Oh, Danny Glover's looking kind of funny.
I mean, he had a great period there.
But no, it was kind of questionable.
She's talking about Mel Gibson, not Mel Gibson.
Oh, Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson's dead.
That guy died.
Yeah, he's gone. No, Mel Gibson's on. He has some scientists on. They weren't even talking about him as an actor. They were just talking about
stem cell research. Because
yeah.
Mel Gibson's father was already sick, and they were talking about stem cell.
I knew there was a reason for that. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
like I said, this is like a podcast that's supported by no backup.
Yeah,
it's all theory and outlandish claims.
Well, I have some backup. I don't know about you. You scare me. You scare me.
That's why I rely on you. You're my backup.
You're welcome. That's what we all gotta earn that check. We have you here. We're great that we're happy and we're honored that you're here. So I guess we will start with our resident Rita Lissette.
Oh,
we're gonna start with Lissette.
Right. Hashtag Lissette.
Lissette.
Shameless plug.
All right. I hear there's a word in the street that you're something of a spoken word artist.
Oh damn!
A little something I hear.
Okay. So let's rewind the train a little. Me and Lissette go back quite a few years. We know each other, and we'll communicate once in a while, especially when we're talking about Photoshop, things like that.
Okay.
And we kind of just maintain that communication. And then for some reason, for whatever reason, we actually went out to have food, and that was a very funny night, by the way.
That was.
He pulled the tone.
He pulled the tone. So
that's the thing now.
He pulled the tone. He really did.
And then her response was brilliant. She goes, "Thank you for letting me treat you to treat me." So that stuck with me. So
why don't you see how you brought it up? You know, I was going to try to spare you this, but you mentioned it.
Oh.
So why don't you explain to our viewers what exactly is pulling the tone?
Pulling the tone is doing something incredibly embarrassing and stupid. Done by yours truly.
That's why they call pull a Nick.
No, let's pull the tone. And even if Nick did it, it would still be pulling the tone. So as an example, here we went out to dinner. I said, "It's my treat. Thank you for coming out, hanging out with me." And I go to reach for my wallet, and my wallet wasn't there.
Luckily, it wasn't a date because then it would have been awkward.
It would have been awkward.
At that point, I would have just said, I have to use the ladies' room.
And then
find out the window.
Exactly.
Oh, damn.
So I had
That's awesome.
I had a bank on our friendship to get me through that moment.
So you had to have that moment of trust.
Yes, there was a moment of trust. Yeah.
But the big question that everybody wants to know is, did you pay him back?
Absolutely, same night.
Oh, okay, right. So did he really pay you back? You know how Puerto Ricans are. You know.
He did. There's this thing called Cash App apparently. So.
Oh hell yeah! Quick pay with Chase. I'm all about that.
Well, there's quick pay and then there's the Cash App.
Oh, the Cash App.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just look for the dollar sign.
Oh, I said I'm looking for
the green dollar sign. It's a green dollar sign. You can't miss it.
Can't miss it.
So yeah, it was just it's just one in a string of things that I do that just for no rhyme or reason I just fumble, I trip, I fall,
But it's not about how many times you fumble, right?
How many times you get up and fall again?
Exactly.
That's how it is.
I'm like, no, I got this now, and then I do something else incredibly stupid. So that's my life. That's my life. So in that time as we started communicating again, she went in and she is really pushing hard to with poetry and makeup, and she just has her hands involved in so many things. And I'll let her tell the story because of course she lived it. But yeah, it was just really inspiring to see somebody do that many things, and just be aware of the environment, not just kind of coasting through it just to get from point A to point B, but just have a good sense about what's happening around her while she's doing that. That was impressive. So.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's totally cool. How long have you been doing poetry?
So in the past couple of years, I've kind of taken a backstage, kind of stepped away from performing.
Have you performed before?
Yeah. I used to do just local stuff.
Open mics, that kind of thing.
Yeah, just sign up on whatever local mic is happening.
Ever do the New York Cafe?
I visited. I visited a million times. I know the support my.
I haven't been there in years, but pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love the environment there. But I found that performing wasn't my thing. Right? I love the art. I appreciated when other people do it. But interestingly enough, I was really, really fearful of public speaking.
That's everybody's fear.
So the fact that I even got up to do an open mic one day was a great accomplishment for me.
Sure.
Back in college, my first year, I found out that the final was an oral presentation, and I dropped out of the class. I was
wow.
That's how fearful I was. Wow. And so then the next semester came, and then I'm like, oh shit, I still got to do this damn class. All right, fine, I'll do it. And luckily for me, I had to do a free writing essay. Choose a topic, write whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, let me do a poem. And when I did the poem in front of the whole class, first of all, I was sweating like a pig. I'm holding the paper and I'm just shaking in my boots. And I practiced for practice on it. And finally I did it, and the response was great. And that's when, you know, I kind of built up the courage to do my first open night. And so the people in Brooklyn,
Brooklyn's a rough crowd.
Brooklyn is a rough crowd.
I know Brooklyn
10
very
years
well.
ago, I went to Soprito for Your Soul, Urban Hibaro.
That's awesome.
What's the name? Copy Cool Poetry.
Copy Cool Poetry, yes.
Right, they've been around for 10 years. You know, they have a segment where, you know, they break your cherry, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
And that's the first time I performed, you know,
Yeah.
so again, the audience loved it, and I did a couple of open mics after that, and it was great.
That's pretty cool.
It was great.
Poetry is a beautiful thing because it's, you know, there's power in words. We know that, and everybody knows that. That's why, you know, look at this movement now. You know, political correctness, watching how you speak to people. The reason why we have these movements, no matter how crazy these movements may become in the grand scheme of things, but the reason why they exist is because there's power in words. There absolutely is power in words. So when you're able to put words together and make it rhythmic, you know, and whether you rhyme or you don't, and go out there and say something that speaks to someone's heart, that speaks to the experiences that they've had in the past, that is a very, very powerful thing. I've done poetry, and I'm familiar with that feeling. When you go up and you say something that someone, like, I remember one time I did a poem. I did a poem about my mom. Tony's heard that poem a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And I remember this guy came up to me after I had done the night, and he said to me, you know, my mom died when I was young also. My mom died when I was 16. So, you know, he went up to me and said, you know, my mom died when I was young also. Me and her didn't have a nice relationship either. That poem, like, you know, struck me. When you get that from somebody, that's better than money. I mean, we don't want to make money, but there are some things that transcend money. You know, when you touch someone that way, you can't put a price tag on that. You just can't. When you say a poem that maybe like you as a Latina woman, you can come out and say a poem that some of these younger like kids or whatever Latino women, something you've been through that they're going through right now, with a guy or just with work or whatever it is, whatever your subject is. Some young girl can come up to you and say, "Wow, that inspired me. I went through that with my dad, or I went through that with my boyfriend, or whatever it is." Then you can't put there is no fiscal price for that.
Right.
You know, so
it's a very healing process for yourself and for the people that receive the message that you're trying to convey. I know for me, anytime I've struggled, writing was a form of healing, you know. So, like, first of all, Spanish is my first language, right? So, you know, sometimes I get stuck translating into English.
Your brain defaults to Spanish?
It does.
That happens to my wife all the time.
And it's interesting because
all the time.
It's interesting because I was born and raised in Florence, right? But my parents spoke Spanish, and that's how I learned the language. And I went to public school where we had to figure it out, right?
Yeah, sure.
What's my point? I completely trained off, but I was going to say that, you know, I like to translate my poetry into English and Spanish.
Are you working on anything new?
I am. I'm doing disposal shoots and stuff like that. And recently, Adara and I kind of came up with a new idea.
Which
I got it.
She came up with the idea.
Very
I like the idea, and we're going to work on it and try to develop
You
it.
do poetry also?
No, I do not. It's your idea, and I love it, so I'm there with you.
So I'm wondering, like, should I, you know?
Well, I mean,
I'm open.
I'll leave it to you to decide. But I would like to get to know a little more about Adara. Tell us a little about yourself, and you know.
You mean the future Golden Globe winner?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's
Tony
exactly
Award
the same
winner.
person.
The future Tony Award winner. Well, that's how it starts. You don't know.
It's true. I
don't know.
could win the Golden
A
Globe.
lot
and
of
the
great
Oscar
actors started on the
and Grammy,
stage.
and yeah. So I'm from Minnesota.
Awesome.
She makes fun of my accent. A lot of times I make fun of her accent. A lot of times when
There's an
it
accent?
gets, I know, right?
Is it true when you're born in
It's
Minnesota they give you a free coat?
Free
What?
A
coat.
free coat? It's so damn cold over there.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's
I was
a
feeling
lot
the
more
picture
easily accessible. Like good coats, good parkas. Like they're hard to find out
I
here.
know he's like a coat.
I know.
Like,
right?
I'm like, this is not the Bronx.
Yeah.
No, I said, would you get a free one? Not that you steal one. There's a difference.
I know, right? But no, I moved here to New York a little over a year ago.
And why'd you come?
Why did I turned 30 last year, and
3-0?
I'm 3-0.
Good 3-0.
And I realized that it was now or never. If I didn't move to New York, and if I didn't give it my all when it came to what I wanted to do for a career, which is primarily acting and musical theater, then I was going to probably regret it for my entire life. And I felt very stuck and stagnant in Minnesota. So there it is, Minnesota. I felt very, you caught it. I felt very stuck. I love the theater community in Minnesota. I keep saying it. I know I keep catching myself doing it.
No,
but
we want authenticity on the corner. You can be your Minnesotan self.
My Minnesotan self. The problem with traditional Midwestern audiences is that they like to see traditional theater. And that is not what I want to do. Because traditional musical theater generally are stories about white people, for white people, starring white people. And that's not me. It's unfortunate because a lot of those shows are beautiful. They have beautiful musics, really interesting storylines, but I didn't want that to be my only career.
That didn't resonate with you.
It doesn't resonate with me now. I think maybe in 20 years I might feel different about it. But currently now, as a young female black woman, I don't feel like those stories are what I want to do on stage. And if I'm going to try to do something different, I need to be in the city where those stories are being told, and that's here in New York.
Because you are of mixed heritage, right?
I am. My dad is half Jamaican and half German, and my mother is Irish.
What's up, Guam, girl?
So, it's funny because we've gone to Jamaica as a family. I have a cousin on my dad's side who goes all the time. And when let's just say that my parents' first anniversary was about 9 months before I was born, and it was in Jamaica.
They don't play in Jamaica.
They don't. And so Jamaica holds a very special place in their heart. They almost named me Trelawney.
That would have been interesting.
I'm glad they didn't though, because Professor Trelawney from Harry Potter, I would have not heard the end of it.
Oh yeah, you never would have. And she was a backcase in that movie.
She was absolutely crazy. But we went back as a family about 5 years ago, and it was so funny because like the Jamaican men who were working at the resorts and the places that we were staying, they were like, "Oh yeah, we can tell that you're Jamaican. You like the fluffy woman." And my mom's like,
"What's that song you got for Jamaica? How did it go?"
Girl, you must be Jamaican because you're Jamaican crazy.
Yeah, that was hysterical.
Well, they were like fluffy is their term of endearment for a plus size woman, and they were like, "We can tell that you're Jamaican. You like your women fluffy. Your daughters are fluffy." And we're like, I was like, "Thank you, yes." My mother was like, "Oh my goodness," being Midwestern Irish woman. But it was. I do have family that go back. We figured out where in Jamaica our heritage goes back as far as we can figure it out in terms of when they actually started writing people's names down as their own person and not just as somebody else's property.
Sure.
So I think it's 1852 in St. Catherine's Parish is where we've been able to trace our Jamaican heritage to.
Wow.
That goes way back.
That's wow.
And then the previous census in Jamaica, it's nobody can find anything at that
Oh
point.
well, yeah, records weren't exactly kept during that time.
Yeah. And they weren't kept for people from Africa. So.
Right. No, absolutely. They were considered.
So what drew you to musical theater in the first place? Like what was the lore about that kind of when you say, yeah, that's what I want to do? Because nobody really just says, I don't get upset and say, yeah, I want to be part of quartet. That's just like that's a very specific thing. So
my mother says that I started singing at like the age of 2, and she found an outlet for me, which was singing in a professional children's chorus. This professional children's chorus also worked a lot with the Minnesota Opera, so we would be the little kids, singing whenever they needed kids in operas and things like that. And initially, I thought I was going to do opera. And that's because
you got some pipes. Got some pipes. Because opera, there's singing and then there's opera.
Well, I'm a bass. Swing low, sweet
no, so that's not even bass. It's there. But I was like, it's more of a baritone. But I was told, oh, you have a good voice for opera. I'm 6 feet tall. They're like, you're tall. It can be very imposing on stage. This is what you should do. But I never really loved opera, but I knew that I loved performing. I loved being on stage. As awful as it sounds, I love being the center of attention. Spotlight's on me, and that's.
It's all
She's a Leo. That makes sense. I'm a Leo.
Oh
yeah, I'm a
Leo.
Leo.
If you believe in that sort of thing, yeah.
I'm a Leo. I loved it all, but I didn't like the art form of. I didn't love the art form of opera. It's not what I.
You can appreciate it, but it's not what you're passionate.
Exactly, and I always did theater, knew musical theater. I did musicals as a kid, like middle school musicals and that thing, and that's sort of what I really figured out that I think musical theater is for me because I was more interested in acting than just kind of standing there and singing. They used to call it the park and bark, where the opera singer would. That's what they called it.
That's awesome, the park and bark.
The big fat, opera singer lady with the horns, or the big tenor guy would walk out on stage. He'd find the spot and he'd sing the song, and then the audiences would love it, and then they'd move to the second spot, and then they'd sing that song. They'd move to the other spot, and
I go nuts with the J.G. Wentworth commercial. I have a structure sort of.
I like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like that.
But
That's
those
good.
days in opera are over, and I always wanted to do more than that. I wanted to actually act and tell the story more than just the music. And so I found my way to musical theater probably when I was like 20 or 21 is when I really said, this is what I want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, I applaud you for that, man, because it takes a lot of courage to follow your dreams. It takes a lot of courage to follow.
There's a reason why there's only like a certain percentage at the height of their careers, and everybody else is either, just a lot of dreams that just went unfulfilled.
There's
you have to make that.
42 Broadway houses in New York. That's everybody's dream. Of those 42 Broadway houses, the average cast size is 20. That's 420 actors out of how many hundreds of thousands in the city?
Maybe even millions.
In trying to make it, in the history, and that's the thing is that it's all you can do is try.
Are they all waiters and strippers?
Probably.
They're all waiters for sure. Who knows? If some girls, and boys, who knows?
Candy have a bright future.
Portia?
So does Portia and Mercedes. They'll have a bright future.
But if I didn't come here, if I didn't come to the city, I would never have met Lissette. But
you guys work together, right?
We do work together. But B, I just regret it. I would say, I really wish I would have done it. Not married, no kids. Didn't have to. I got fired from the job. I was like,
we all got
fired, right? And I was like, this is the time. I've been putting it off and thinking, maybe I should go. Oh, but it's gonna be hard. Oh, but who knows if it'll even happen? And then I got fired from this job, and I was like, you know what? Getting fired was the best thing that happened to me because 3 months later I was here. So
I'll tell you this, and this is, if you look at anybody, if you look at the story behind anybody who's ever made it, whether it's in theater or big budget movies or whatever, music, you look at their story, one thing they all have in common: they weren't supposed to be there, right? There's a story about how, I was going to do this and I was going to do that, I was going to stay at this job, or I was going to, but something in my heart told me I had to go for this, and I went for it, and there they are now, right? Nobody who's ever made something of themselves ever did it by themselves. No one. No one who's ever made it in any, especially the entertainment field. No one who's ever made it in that field ever did it by just following the norm, following the steps that everybody else has taken, and not going out there and really trying to reach for their dreams. That's what you're doing now. That is, look, even worst case scenario, you don't make it. You did more than 90% of people do. You went out and you tried.
Exactly, and I know that I have done more than half the people that I've worked with at home.
Sure.
Because I do one day want to go back home. If I own a house, if I have kids, I want that to be where my family is at. But I'm years away from that right now.
And you don't know how you're going to feel. The way you feel right now without kids, without having a husband, isn't necessarily the way you're going to feel when you have a husband and kids. Yeah. You may decide, I love New York. This is my home. This is where I love to be. This is where my career is, and I want to stay here.
Yeah.
That may very well happen to you. Mm-hmm. Or you may say, screw this, I'm sick of the cold, I'm going to Florida. You don't know. You never know what's going to happen when the time comes.
The funny thing about the dream, that the dream is set. The dream is set. It's up there. You already have a plan about what it looks like. But what you don't account for is where your mindset is at.
When you get there.
In 5 years,
Yeah, when you get there. You don't know.
To me, New York was always a win-win situation because when I move here and I become successful, when I move here, I take classes, I become a better performer, I don't become successful in the sense that I don't get a Broadway show or whatever, but I still have bettered myself as an actor that will allow me to continue to grow and get work back home. People don't realize that Minnesota has the second or third highest theater seat per capita outside of New York.
Really?
There is an incredibly vibrant theater community there. There's the problem is the shows that I want to do are not being produced at the houses that actually pay you money. I'm not being produced by the people who allow you to do it for a living. There's about 5 major theater companies in Minnesota that the union actors, the equity actors, kind of go. The ones who do it full time go back and forth between, and they do wonderful shows. But they do the shows by white people for white people about white people, and it's one of the reasons why there are many very successful white actors in Minnesota, because they're incredibly talented and their stories are being told on a regular basis.
Which I gotta say, that's interesting, but that's not a bad thing either.
No, it's not.
It's not, because in every, depending on the ethnicity of the neighborhood that you grew up in, you're gonna find that.
Yeah.
And if you come from an African American community, a lot of the movies, a lot of the shows, a lot of the theater is probably gonna be by African Americans for African Americans. It's not a bad thing. That's the community. If you're in a Latino community, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have a lot of Latino-based, heavily Latino-centric entertainment. So you're from a place that has white people. So their stuff is going to be for white people. And there really is nothing wrong with that.
No.
And there's great stories everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
For every ethnicity. It's kind of like, I'm a funny individual, because you often hear, we live in this time where it almost seems like white people have to apologize for being white. I don't know if you've caught that at all.
What are you talking about? It's been like that forever.
No, but really, in the last 10 years, nobody's getting heavily.
There's a word
where there's
for
this
it.
white guilt.
White guilt.
Well, it's white guilt, but there's another word for it as well. And my sister is very light-skinned. She makes this joke about how she would have been the house slave and I would have been like the kitchen slave.
Oh, that's funny.
Because she could pass. She does pass. People don't realize that she's a black woman. She's a woman of color, and sometimes it makes her very angry because they'll make a little joke to her and she's like, my dad's black, right? And they're like, oh, sorry, but there's a word for it, and it's called performative awareness or performative something, where you want to make sure that I, as a white person, want you, as a Latino person, a black person, whatever, I want you to know how aware I am and how apologetic I am. Not because that's what I actually feel, but I want you to know that.
Right, because that's the correct and appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, and with all the social media and all that things, they want everybody to know how woke they are. And they might not actually be woke, but they just want everyone to know. I just want everyone to
know. Are we doing that now?
Yeah, we are. Hashtag Portela.
But those stories are great, but it's changing, which is one of the things if I go back to Minnesota, I know I'll still continue to get work. There's a really great show it's a new work. It was written and produced, and it's currently performing in Minnesota, and it's about, it's called 5 Points. And it is about kind of the advent of contemporary American black tap dance, and how it came out of the neighborhoods where there was a lot of intersection between Irish people and black people, and how the Irish jigging helped to inform what we know as tap, and specifically black tap dance, because there's Broadway tap.
There is definitely a similarity.
There's that Fred Astaire stuff, and then there's
right. There's Sammy Davis Jr. and there's Fred Astaire.
Exactly, and that's what it is, and it's an interesting story, and it's combining multiple cultures, and that's a story. I look at that and I'm like, damn, I wish I was in Minnesota to audition for that one.
Yeah, well, it's successful, and maybe there when you go back.
Maybe they're also trying to bring it to New York. So,
I would love to see that. There is something beautiful that comes from the combining of cultures.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
All cultures, right? There's something incredible that happens, right? Like there was a play. What was it called? Collard greens and it was a black and Latino.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember it. It was something in collard greens.
Collard greens and plátano.
There you go. That's what it was called. Collard greens and plátano, something like that. That it was. I think it was about a Latino woman or something like that. I know it was something in that range where it was about I think it was a Latina woman and a black man are getting together, or vice versa, or whatever, and this combining of cultures that happens. And that play was amazing. I think they showed it on Channel 13 because every so often here PBS will show a play. They show Jekyll and Hyde. I think I saw that there, or at least excerpts from that play. And it was brilliant. But there's something beautiful that comes from like that culture clash.
Yeah, I dig that very much. It's so refreshing when you see like those colors splash together, whether it be in the music when black and Indian music come together and soul and country and just the culture clashes are just so vibrant and seeing that in dance, especially with tap, which is one of my favorites growing up. Watching Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines. The list is on and on. Fred Astaire, of course, obviously. I love it. As a matter of fact, I want to do it.
Tap. I think it's too big to tap.
Yeah, I think so.
You are not, though. Have you? I'm going to interrupt because I know a gentleman. He is currently in Hamilton. He won the Tony Award for being Aladdin on Broadway, or a genie in Aladdin. His name is James Iglehart. This dude is one of the warmest, most outgoing, friendly humans that I've met, let alone a Tony Award-winning actor. He's 6 feet tall, he's probably 250, 275, and he tap danced with the rest, like all of his Broadway cohorts, and he got a standing ovation every single night when he was doing Aladdin.
There is hope for you.
There is hope.
There is hope.
He's actually a pretty good dancer. Actually, he is. No,
I got old moves. It's old moves.
There's hope for everybody, but what he did is he put a year and a half of his energy into taking 2 free tap classes a week to make sure that he had the skill set needed. So when Disney gave him that call and said, "We want you to be Aladdin on Broadway," he was ready for it.
Yeah, but I never would have thought they'd be tap in Aladdin.
They do it. They do it in Friend Like Me. Oh yeah, like the song where they're in the whole Cave of Wonders with all the jewels and the gold and things like that. That's the big Act 1 finale number. Exactly. Oh, the monkey's not on Broadway though. They removed the monkey from Broadway.
Really?
Yeah. They it's kind of the big Act 1 showstopper, and that's when the genie first comes out. It's when he comes out of the lamp. And it's this, they want to show how flash he is, and the best way to show flash on Broadway is with a tap dance number. So he can hook it with the rest of them, so there's hope for you. I can fake it in the back row. That's the way that I like to call it.
Hey, I'm with you.
I do not have formal training. My parents, in terms of finances and time, basically said, they told me and my sister, you can, each one of you has to do a sport, so we did swim team. And then they said there's only time and money for one extracurricular, and that was the children's choir that I was in. I did dance lessons until I was about 8 or 9 years old, but then I had to choose, and so I can fake it in the back row, but I don't have the training to be in the front row showing off the beautiful skills. But you say, hey, that girl in the back row is keeping up really well. That's me.
That girl in the back got rhythm.
She's keeping up real well.
She got rhythm.
Yeah, that's me in the back row. I'm going the complete opposite. I had dance classes coming up.
Latina woman.
Latina woman.
Salsa's in the kitchen. They're cooking and
it's from grandma, right? In the kitchen. But and then it goes watching my parents. Right? These people just fly all over the place. To salsa music, of course. And so my mother was the first one to teach me, salsa dancing. And today I can teach her.
You and my wife will get along, bro.
Listen, I love it. And, I love the lyrics. I love the rhythm.
Salsa music is beautiful.
It's very.
I didn't appreciate it as a kid.
How could you?
I just wasn't into it as a kid, but as I got older, man, I grew to love it. Salsa music is like. There is some music that speaks to the soul of a people, right? Like African Americans have R&B, the Motown era, which is also one of my favorite genres of music. Rock, like in the Midwest and stuff like that. For Latinos, especially Puerto Ricans, salsa, and that's the music of the soul for us. It is.
And I love how salsa can talk about anything and everything under the sun.
Oh yeah.
And still make it fun and you can literally be dancing about a heartbreak. Like your heart was broken yesterday.
Because that music is jamming, that's why.
No me pega la negra. If you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's a sad song.
Right.
It is a sad song.
No me pega la negra translated means, don't hit the black woman, or don't hit my black woman, or dark skin complexion, right? In reference to her appearance. And so that salsa song talks about how she's there with her husband, and then the slave owner comes and hits his woman. And
right.
so then
he
starts
the owner
to belt out, don't hit my black woman.
But it's played at every party.
Every freaking party.
Every party.
And the first couple of lines, let's talk about our story. Right? Let's talk about our story, the black story. And then it goes into the lyrics. So those 2 seconds, I'm like, damn, that's powerful.
It is.
That's deep, yeah.
Right? But here we are, like, smiling and dancing.
We're smiling and dancing. Because some poor girl getting beat with a big stick.
Because if you can jam on those instruments, that's why.
Listen, man, it's beautiful. There's another one with that. Pedro Navaja, about that gangster.
Yeah, Pedro.
They actually made a movie about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's this fictional song. I can't remember. I don't know if it's is that Eddie Santiago? I can't remember who sings that song. I'm terrible at remembering that, but it's a song about a gangster, actually, and his story, which is crazy. They even made a movie about it some years later. Very vivid story, but you're at a point, everybody's dancing and smiling. You want to tell you it's bloody. They tell you, you got like shot and stabbed, and they're like, by a woman. And he's there just spinning, everybody's dancing. We're talking about a bloody tale of murder. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, that's like the Puerto Rican murder she wrote. Yeah. That's kind of what that is. What
about salsa is it's the energy. It's the energy put into it. It doesn't matter what you talk about. It's the power of the instruments and the chords and the person singing the song. Like, you just gotta move. You gotta
go.
You gotta move.
So salsa music was my first love, right? And then from salsa, growing up in the hood, you have kids that are listening to hip hop, right? And hip hop, what do you do? You start learning how to break dance. So me, I kind of caught the tail end of the whole breakdance era, right? Because I was 14 years old.
Did you walk around with cardboard?
No, but we did have a carpet.
Yeah.
Well, a vinyl carpet that was fancy, like
bougie ass girls in the hood. We don't do cardboard. You gotta bring out that carpet. Bougie ass women.
We were bougie ass breakdancers, right? But I told you it was the tail end of the situation, right? Mm-hmm. So we would go over to Jerome and Jerome Avenue. There was a park over there, and lay it out and have a boom box and just breakdance, just kind of copying our older cousins and things like that.
Yeah,
So that was like the original outlet for me, dance, right? And so if I felt sad, if I felt angry, if I was failing at school, whatever, that was my way to heal. And so going into the whole spoken word thing, it was like a complete spin around, because when you dance, you don't have to speak. Your body is doing the speaking, right? You can translate your sorrows and your anger and your happiness through your dance motion. So when it was time to actually speak what I was feeling, it was a completely different one.
There's a transition that happens when you become an adult. Like when you're a kid, at least most kids I know.
Are you referring to puberty?
No, there's that. That's a different discussion. But we can get to that. We get to that. The birds and the bees, you can have that talk. But there's a transition that happens when, most kids that I ever know are not good at expressing themselves early. Right? That's something that kind of happens with time and maturity and becoming an adult. And hell, there's a lot of adults who still have a hard time doing it. But the way you express yourself when you're 15 isn't necessarily the way you're going to express yourself when you're 30. Right? So you get to a point where your thoughts are more mature, you have more life experience, the way you handle obstacles in your life is a much more mature way than you did when you were 15 years old. And so the spoken word thing, I think, is a reason why you tend to find more. There's plenty of young people who do it in this phenomenon, but you tend to find a lot of older people doing that. And the reason is because there's a certain maturity that I think has to come with that. The ability to really focus your mind and put all of your thoughts down on paper.
And speaking about the translation, like going from one part to the next, we were dancing dancing, and I was part of the dancing. I had my dance partner who used to go to auditions all the time, and we had like this really great opportunity to kind of like meet some people that were doing like hip hop videos at the time.
That's awesome.
And I don't want to mention names, but
you can say a few names, all right?
no, I don't want to name drop. But at the time, we got this really cool gig, and one of the conditions was, you know, to show up at this industry party, right, wearing something sexy, right? It sounds fine, it sounds all good. But when we were, you know, calling back to confirm the details and the address and everything else, it turns out sexy really meant lingerie.
Right.
Right? It didn't mean sexy like
a nice outfit. No, it's coming there with like a thong out. You know? Yeah. I've been to a few of those parties. I know. I'm aware.
Alright, party animal.
What were you wearing?
But that being said,
What were you wearing?
Don't you worry about that, right? That's between me and my phone.
the MC Hammer Speedo.
Real big and fluffy. It's substituted as a parachute.
No, the
all white
Speedo.
party, so it was like a white Speedo?
It was a white Speedo.
Nobody remembers the MC Hammer Speedo.
Oh,
I remember.
That bright yellow joint.
The Too Legit to Quit video. Jesus Christ.
So basically, they wanted us to show up in these MC Hammer thongs, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. This is, you know, I'm about the art, I'm about the dance.
Right.
And it,
You're not there just to sell your
right,
body,
so
you know?
it broke my heart, and I guess I was like really fragile because after that I just quit dancing.
Well, you were a kid, and when you're a kid, you know, you take those things to heart. You know, it's not until you become an adult when you say, you know what, there are just some assholes out there who don't appreciate that you were just a talented dancer. Right. You were just good at it. You didn't need to be butt naked to dance. There's no, I mean, we see that in videos all the time, and hey, girls, look, that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. But if you don't, that's okay. You know, you shouldn't have to do that. It's like you're an actress. You know, there are plenty of actresses out there who don't get butt naked every month. Plenty. There are actresses out there who don't do that. You know, when do you see Julia Roberts butt naked? You don't see it. And she's been a very, very successful actress. You know, you don't have to go there. So as a kid, I could understand how that was very hard.
I wonder why Halle Berry decided to go down that
$40 million is why.
That's part
They
of
wrote
it.
that girl a check.
And said 40 million
So
reasons.
what's the difference between, let's say, Julia Roberts and Halle Berry? Like,
Julia Roberts don't have a Halle Berry body.
is that what it is?
That's the damn truth.
I think that's part of it. I also, as an actor myself, I wouldn't ever get naked on stage or on camera unless I felt that it served a purpose for the character or it served a purpose for the story.
What if they wrote you a $40 million check?
I would have to sit long and hard before I would have to really consider it.
Really?
Yeah, I would. And because I believe that about all nudity. Gratuitous nudity is one thing, but if it's nudity that actually serves the purpose of the story and the character, then I have no issue with it whatsoever.
I was struggling with
I
struggle.
have nothing but respect for you saying that, because listen,
$40 million.
I run around butt naked in the sidewalk and someone gave me $40 million. I'm like, I just run around screaming.
Yeah, right. But the difference is though is that it's one thing if you're doing it in person with doing it once for $40 million. This is going to be on DVD. This is going to be on the internet. This is going to live forever.
Yep.
Do you want your butt-ass naked body living forever 300 years after you die?
You know how true that is? You gotta think about it. Where's Anthony Schnapp?
But your kids can't
Think about it. Where's Anthony Schnapp?
And H. Who's that H?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was one of Ellen DeGeneres' first girlfriends.
Yes.
Really? I don't know.
And an actress.
And an actress, yes.
And
What
I think
has she been in? I'm sorry.
the remake of Psycho.
I didn't see that one.
All right. Exactly. Vince won. It didn't do well. And in that movie, she got butt ass naked and even showed the chocolate starfish.
Really?
Wow. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with chocolate starfish.
I am. And I'm from Minnesota.
Listen, I'm
So
from
the
the
pool
Bronx.
hole.
Oh, shit!
It's there, on Front Street. You know?
Chocolate starfish.
Yeah, chocolate starfish.
That's a cute name considering
He comes up with that kind of shit. I don't know. That's a Tonyism.
You want to know how I know about it though? Because one of my favorite reality shows was The Girls Next Door, the Hugh Hefner Playboy Girls, and they talked about it when I was like 19, 20 years old. It was on E!
Everything.
Something new?
Hey, listen, he'll come up with stuff. I'm like, where the hell did you get this? Where? You get this
Like
from?
for me, a good example for the theater is the musical Hair.
Right, there's a nude scene in there.
Everybody gets naked and just stands there naked singing. And some people might argue with me that the point of it back in 1969 or 70, whenever that musical first came out, was to raise the middle finger to the establishment and be like, we're going to do something new and groundbreaking, and we're going to get naked on stage. And that's what it is.
Especially during a time that was, especially a time when sex was such a taboo.
Exactly.
In that era, sex
and it was
taboo.
Purely just to do it, just to raise that middle finger.
Sure.
But did it actually progress the characters or the storyline of this particular show? I don't think so. I get why it was done and why it was important that it happened at the time that it happened, but then the counterpart to that, there's a play called M. Butterfly. It was revived on Broadway this past year, and it didn't do well, unfortunately. It's one of my favorite plays, and it is, I believe it's a true story about a French military officer stationed in China who falls in love with a Chinese opera singer. And Chinese opera is very different from Western opera.
Very much so.
And has a 20-year relationship with this Chinese opera singer. 20 years into this relationship, finds out that it's a man.
Oh, shit!
Damn.
Yeah. You didn't expect that, did you? And in this final scene where this Chinese opera singer is...
A crying game, Chinese people.
Wait, that way the chocolate starfish?
I know, right? And this final scene in this play...
You know I don't want to...
Yeah. It's a really interesting play because it talks about the dynamics of what it means to be intimate without being super sexually active.
Right.
And so in the final scenes of this play, this actor is starting to strip off the female stage persona that this military officer has fallen in love with, and that he has continued off stage, and eventually gets completely nude. And I was watching this maybe 10 plus years ago for the first time at the Guthrie, which is one of the biggest regional theaters in my hometown, and I didn't even realize that he was naked until the scene was almost over, because it was so compelling and so important for the storyline. And then normally the second you see somebody naked, you're like, there it is! I see it! I'm going to stare at you the whole time. And I didn't even realize, because it was acted so well, and it was written so well, and the story, it was so important for the story.
Sure.
And when you do it on stage, the only people seeing it that night are the 200 people in the audience. When you do it on film, and that's why it comes with a $40 million check, because when you do it on film, it's going to be out there forever. It's going to be in the archives of film history, especially the performance she gave for that movie. Yeah. Which, fun fact, I almost sang on, sorry. My uncle is a film composer. He composed the background music for Monsters Ball. And same director for that movie. Then directed a different movie, Finding Neverland, later. Asked my uncle and his company to do the music for that one.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. But they ended up choosing, the producers ended up kind of stepping in and saying, we want to choose this different composer. And I was kind of bummed because I, as a maybe 11-year-old, sang a song on this background music, and I thought I was going to, I had the movie script and everything, I still have it at home. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to sing a movie, it's going to be so great. They ended up choosing somebody different, and I suppose it was the right decision because this person won the Oscar for Best Original Film Score. But, it's still kind of... Exactly, or it could have, but that's the risk the producers take. Do we go with this other person who we think is going to win us an Oscar, or do we go with this kind of unknown who's only written for one movie, and what do we do? And ultimately, they made the right decision for their dollars, which was the person who won the Oscar. But,
well, in the interest of having good taste into that person who won the role, fuck.
I don't even know who it was. All I know is that I watched the Oscar.
I'm feeling her pain.
I still have that Finding Neverland movie script at home somewhere.
But it is a good movie. I mean, as someone who enjoyed I grew up reading the Peter Pan book. I enjoyed the books, so it was a very good movie. It was. But that sucks. That sucks. Yeah.
That's alright.
Fucking rock.
More fire.
It does.
Amen.
Fire behind my ass to it.
That and Will Smith was almost in The Matrix.
It was a completely different movie. From what?
Segway.
I don't know what I liked it.
Exactly. I don't know if I would have liked it either.
Trust me, there's a whole bunch of movies where it should have been other people. What was it? It was going to be like Tom Cruise for Tony Stark, Marlon Wayans for Robin.
I'm a Tom Cruise guy, but I no.
We almost had Marlon Wayans for Robin.
Oh, thank God. Marlon Wayans. Yeah, but oh God, why?
I don't know if it matches.
No, hell no, it don't match.
No.
This is for the George Clooney Batman.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And that one was very traditional for comic books, so that really wouldn't match.
That and all those movies sucked.
I was like, really shit.
That was rough. That was a rough watch.
They sucked. God, they sucked. Jesus Christ.
There
are times I can have deep thoughts about things, and there are times like, yo, that just sucks.
That just sucks.
I don't tell you, but it sucks.
I had a deep thought. Like, I had to go think about going to the hospital, checking my ribs.
Yeah.
Because I was bleeding internally after watching.
Jesus. So, it's funny. So you have it in the, you've flirted with this kind of spotlight now for a long time.
I have, but it could only ever be flirtation from the Midwest. If I ever wanted the opportunity to actually step into it.
It's either New York or
LA. And
what about Chicago? Doesn't Chicago have a pretty strong theater scene?
They do. They really do. But I didn't know anybody in Chicago. I know people here. So that was always kind of the bigger draw for New York, is because I knew people here. I knew people who had been successful here. And I knew that I would have somewhat of a small community, but still people that I could rely on. I don't know anybody.
So you've been to New York prior to moving?
Yeah, I've come several times before I moved here. I would come out for like maybe 4 or 5 days, see as many shows as I could, audition for as much as I could, just to get the hang of it. Auditioning in New York is a very confusing thing if you don't know what you're doing, especially when you add in being in the Actors Union. There's all sorts of union rules that audition producers have to comply with. And if you don't know what those rules are, as an actor, you're going to go stand in the wrong line for 2 hours. And nobody's going to tell you because everyone's competitive and they're looking after themselves. Right. They'll be perfectly nice and they'll say, oh yeah, I'll hold your spot while you go to the bathroom. But they'll be like, this girl has no idea she's standing in the wrong line. I'll hold her spot, And so it takes a while. I know, it's cutthroat. It takes a while to learn what those rules are.
New York is cutthroat. We know when you're born and raised here, it's a dog-eat-dog world.
I will say I have an advantage over some of these other young women here because I'm not 22, I'm not white, I'm not blonde, and I'm not 5'3". Nothing against 5'3". But
so you
they all look the same.
People.
They're challenged. They all look the same. They all sound the same. And when that's not interesting, when somebody new and different walks into the room, it sets me apart. Hopefully in a better way. They take notice. Sure. Exactly. I would walk into these audition rooms and I look around and I see 300 other girls and there's only 4 of the women of color. Whatever that color may be. I'm like, okay, so the 4 of us are going to be noticed a little bit more today. That's interesting. And that's
but that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and a lot of them are fresh out of college and they all have 21, 22, they have the energy. Like, I can't wake up at 5 a.m. That's what, without it being rough, and that's what you have to do.
And checks out, they went out partying and they didn't bother sleeping. They went to the party right to the audition.
And that's exactly it, and it's a little frustrating. This year has been more frustrating than last year. I got a couple callbacks last year. I got seen at more auditions last year. Casting directors do this thing where they call it typing you out. They collect everybody's headshots and resumes at the beginning of the audition, and they go through and they say, who are we looking for today? We're looking for somebody who sings R&B, but all these women only sing classical. Then we're going to toss out all of their, headshots and say, thank you for coming in, but we're not going to waste your time. It's appreciated. You're not going to make me wait for 6 hours just to sing 30 seconds for you, and when you know you're not even going to consider me anyways. I would much rather be told at 9 a.m. You can go back home. So they do this thing called typing you out, and I've auditioned. I'm more selective about my auditions this year. A, because I work 50 hours a week at my various jobs, but B, because I'm not going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get down to Midtown for a show that I don't think I'm actually going to be considered for. Right. It's a waste of my time and it's a waste of theirs. So I get up, I do the thing, I go down there. This is for a show that I know requires a lot of age diversity, body diversity, and ethnic diversity. I show up, I see, great, there's only 20 other, Black women, Latino women, Asian women, whatever, here, and this is a show that requires a lot of diversity. Haha, these 300 other white girls are going home. but they've been typing out the women of diversity for some of these shows this year, and it's been getting very frustrating. It's not the casting director's fault. They're just going based off of the directions from whoever's directing the show. But I'm like, honor the source material. If this is a show that's supposed to have a lot of age diversity, why are you only keeping back the 22-year-olds? If this is a show that's supposed to be representative of what an actual living community looks like, why are you keeping back only the white girls? You know, why are you keeping back only the ones who are size 0? That's been my biggest frustration this year. Everybody has their years that they do good and bad in terms of what shows are for them.
It's a hit and miss.
It's a hit or miss. Last year was really good for me. There were a lot of shows that I went to and actually got seen for, got some callbacks for. This year has been kind of a dud, which is
Because the year's still young. The year is still young. And it can turn around very quickly.
There's an audition season where most theater companies from around the country come into New York sometime between February and May to audition for the upcoming theater season. So the audition season is coming to a close, but that doesn't mean that there aren't auditions the rest of the year. It's just instead of 4 weeks, it might be 4 months.
Okay.
It just slows down. It happens year round. But tomorrow I have 3 that I want to try to go to, and I hope I get seen.
Oh man, good luck.
You know, the difference now as an actress and with actors way back when is the internet. Right? So we had a discussion about like, you know what, if they're tossing out your headshot and doing all this stuff, come up with your own thing, you know, and utilize the internet to be known. Right? Because like she said, you walk into a room, they're going to notice you because you want to look like the good people. Yeah.
Well, you see it a lot with, it's funny you mention that because you see it a lot now with dancers. They're putting out their own YouTube stuff where they're just dancing different songs and they're getting a lot of hits. And look at all these singers. I think Shawn Mendes is one of them. This kid's had a lot of success. He started on YouTube. He literally started on YouTube.
So did Bieber.
What's his name?
Bieber did.
Mel Young. This is an internet guy sensation who does singing, right? So he has like the grid, right? You see like a video, it's a grid of him in each little box. And he's singing at different levels.
Oh, acapella.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
He does the Disney stuff too, right? He's done a bunch of Disney songs. That guy?
Like,
there's this dude that he sings.
I know you're talking about.
Are you talking about the white guy who sings the
I think
girl?
he's gay, actually. Yeah.
No,
I think he's gay.
You're talking about something different. He's
I'm
talking
about the black guy.
Oh, okay. Him I don't know.
I know who both of you are talking about. I'm forgetting his name, but he's also from Minnesota.
Get out.
Yeah.
This guy, he can sing. He can sing. But he sings at all these different levels.
He's all by himself.
He sings all these parts all by himself. And he sounds different and he's amazing. So that guy is something else, but you see it. Like another guy that's getting a lot.
Portela, that's his name.
That's his name.
I didn't even Google it. I just came to me.
That's his name. And there's a guy who he's starting to get a lot of celebrations. Andrew Garcia. He came out in American Idol some years ago. He didn't win. He was like one of the. I think he made it to like the quarterfinals or whatever it is. But he's putting out a lot of stuff on YouTube. Let me tell you, he's getting a lot of success.
Yeah,
so you have a lot of people.
what they're doing now, they go viral.
Yeah,
even if you're not singing dancing, you get these people to put out comedy videos.
Yeah, they don't stand up.
And they become so well known now that now they're starting to get professional jobs.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the perfect segue to talk about what Lissette and I.
Oh, segue!
There we go.
Segues.
All right, I'll keep the title a secret.
Okay,
we'll keep the title a secret, but Lissette and I have decided we want to do like a YouTube video series together.
Okay.
So,
okay. What would it be about?
When Murderapolis meets.
Oh.
Down front.
And I really like this idea that they have. It's really nifty. And
you heard the idea?
We spoke about it for the podcast.
I'm in the dark.
And I heard it, I was like, yeah, man, I can get behind that. That's pretty.
I'm in the dark, so
he's fresh ears.
I mean, we're gonna talk about topics that are important to us.
Never seen before.
Yeah,
it just has a funnier twist to it. I think a bitchier.
Yes,
twist to it. We have our own little intro and.
Yeah, we're in the planning stages of it right now, but I think we want to try to get one out coming up as soon as we can.
So what's your premise?
Two women from very different points of view, aspects of life, because even Murderapolis in the 90s, where I grew up, is still far, far different from
New York in the 90s,
and in the Bronx. And two women who from very different parts of this country, very different worldviews, but still similar for each other, coming together and discussing about politics, discussing about relationships, discussing about...
Sign me up, I'm down.
I know, right? Exactly.
I love the idea.
So one thing that I like, I think it's okay to drop is, again, like Charlemagne from Hot 97 has Donkey of the Day. So we're thinking about having, who is the bitchiest today?
Oh, bitch of the day.
Bitch of the day.
Bitch of the day.
Right. So, a spin, maybe not verbatim, but, the point is, who pulled the bitchy move today? Like, tonight's politics, President Trump.
But Trump, it is unfair because Trump's going to win every week.
He's going to win it.
He's going to win every week.
I know. I had a really funny idea of, how they have signs up in workplaces. It's been 0 days since a workplace accident. It's been 7 days since we've had an accident here. I think it'd be really funny to have like a Trump bitch meter. How many days has it been?
Since he's had a bitchy moment?
He's had a bitchy moment. And I think the count is going to stay at 0 to 1 pretty much the entire time.
It's going to go to 0, 1, 0, 1.
Exactly. We hit 2. We got 2 days.
We got 2.
And it's because he's been golfing, Or is that a bitch in itself that he's been golfing, But like a good example is this past week. The bitch of the week or the bitch of the day would have been Dirty Tristan Thompson, Khloe Kardashian's baby daddy, who got caught cheating on her when she gave birth.
Bitch ass hoe.
And I'm normally not like a huge, oh my gosh, I love the Kardashians, but I've always thought that Khloe was the realest out of all of them. And
she got the real deal too.
She's the heaviest of them, right? Like she was the big girl.
Bigger, and by bigger, like what, a size 8, 10? Big by their standards, but you could see the progression of her choosing health and changing her body. She didn't just do it overnight. You could see it took her years to get to. Some of it I don't think is real, but it doesn't matter because it took years to get to the fitness. You can't fake the abs, You can't fake the strength that you see her have when she's working out with her trainer while she's on her show. And it took her years to get to that point, and she's been very real about that process of doing that. And that I think is really great. Not to mention she's the one who will call her sisters out on all the shit that they do and say. And she will let them know your son is full of bread. Your son.
Every family has that one sane person.
Yeah, she's the sanest one of that entire family, I think. And she's also been vocal about fertility problems in the past and wasn't even planning on this baby. And literally, maybe less than 36 hours before she officially gave birth, TMZ found video footage of him in a club from last October when she was 3-4 months pregnant with girls grabbing his junk, making out, all that stuff. She was probably in early labor, but it is video. You cannot deny that it's him.
Oh, he'll do the shaggy. It wasn't me. He'll do the shaggy.
I don't think it's going to work this time.
That would have been my bitch of the week because nobody deserves that. I don't care if you're a Kardashian. I don't care if, you're Melania Trump. Nobody deserves to have that.
That's a level of disrespect.
And the part that cracks me up about the whole situation, too, is you have some people out there who are like, well, the Kardashians, especially maybe some more conservative Republican trolls out in the internet universe, well, the Kardashians deserve it. They're so fake, all they do is make money off of, doing fake, scenarios.
Which
and I'm like,
well,
but wouldn't you say that Donald Trump did the same thing with his reality show?
Of course, they all cashed
in. The same thing that he did with Stormy Daniels, the porn star, when his wife had just given birth, he was off playing with her.
Of course.
But it wasn't him. It couldn't be him. It was 10 years ago. What mattered?
Isn't it amazing? And here we go. I guess getting a little political.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm one of those. I'll get into it. I am one of those. But first, let me ask you: is Minnesota a red state or a blue state?
It's blue, but it's white liberal woke blue. And I use that hashtag woke.
Hashtag woke. Here we go.
It is blue. It's been blue for 4 years. It really has. But it also has some of the worst education rates for blacks in the country. It has some of the worst home ownership disparities. There are fellow black women in the state of Minnesota who complain and decide that because there are not a lot of black men in Minnesota. They're all very incarcerated, and the whole prison to or school to prison pipeline is very present in Minnesota. And that's not. I don't want to generalize, but I see a lot of my friends from Minnesota saying, "I really need to move to Atlanta." you know, I really need to move to New York. I need to move to New Orleans. I need to move where there are more men of color, and the men of color are being treated with at least somewhat a little bit more respect. And it might not be saying much, but it's so. I very much say it's blue, but it's white liberal.
Right, so it's more like a teal.
Exactly, it's a teal. Just like it's like Portland. If you've ever been to Portland, it's
so you mix red and blue, you get teal.
Is that what you did?
No.
And the reason why Minnesota.
You're the artist, man.
I know. But we got Prince, purple. There you go. Purple.
Hey,
all right.
I'm all about Prince.
My friend was in high school with him.
He was? I didn't know he was from Minnesota.
Yeah. Minnesota.
I'm a big fan of Prince, but I didn't realize he was from Minnesota.
It's from Minnesota, born
I
and raised.
wonder if that was part of the reason why he chose purple. Because this country's, you know,
It's in the middle.
it's in the middle. It's right there. And some of that, a little bit of
The
blue.
urban areas in Minnesota are very blue. The suburban and the farmland in Minnesota is very red. And
But that's true everywhere. That's true everywhere.
It is true everywhere, but I think that because in the last 40 years, that's when the population in urban areas overtook the farmland areas, that's when the state turned blue. When the state was more all farmland, that's when it was all Republican.
Yeah, which is...
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
But no, Prince, born and raised in South Minneapolis. He had an LA home, but he was only there when he needed to be in LA. He lived in his compound called Paisley Park.
That I know,
He lived there. He recorded there. He had a performing venue.
They said he had
concerts.
10,000 songs,
some crazy
number like
because
that.
he holed himself up and just did nothing but make music.
They said they found enough music when he died that he could release an album for the next 10 years.
Yep.
They said they had that much music.
They said the same thing about Tupac. I haven't heard new shit in a while.
No, they just kept remixing Tupac's shit. That's what they kept doing. And they took one verse here, and made a song with it. Are you a Tupac girl?
I love Tupac.
I'll take Biggie. I listen.
I agree.
I appreciate
well, I like Pac. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Pac fan. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Pac fan. I like his music. I own quite a bit of his music. I do think Biggie was a better rapper. I just do. I think Pac is very overrated. And I'm gonna tell you why I say that. And then we'll go back to Trump.
Like more.
Yeah, I know. And then
I know her whole body.
And then I'm gonna.
It got 10 steps.
Now with hashtag it says gonna kill you. It says gonna kill you.
She's like this motherfucker.
The reason why I say that is because before we go back to Trump, I gotta get back to that asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to.
Okay.
They mentioned it. I have to. But my thing with Pac is this. I think Pac is overrated for a few reasons. One, he was never the best rapper out, ever. Like, by anyone's standards. No one was calling him the greatest of all time until he died. Then all of a sudden, he was the greatest rapper of all time. When he was alive, no one was making that claim. Matter of fact, when he was alive, he wasn't even the best-selling artist out. Not even close. Not even close.
You hadn't been on the belt.
It's facts. Dr. Dre was outselling Pac when they were both out at the same time. So was Snoop Dogg.
That's a fact.
There were artists outselling Pac for a long time. I'm not knocking the quality of Pac's music. I'm not. He made good music, for sure. But I think all this greatest of all time talk is overreaching. And what really kills me is when these people want to talk about Pac like he was a prophet. This murders me. Like, oh, he knew he was going to die. Yeah, you know he knew he was going to die. You know why he knew he was going to die? Because he was doing stupid shit. And when you live, and as someone who comes from the street, and you're living that life, you know at some point somebody's going to catch you.
What did I say?
What I said, my grandmother, may she rest in peace. She would have celebrated her birthday a few years ago. She used to say, and I quote, this is my grandmother's words, you live like a mole forker, you die like a mole forker.
All right.
There you go.
That was my grandmother, her broken English.
Yeah.
She still would say that watching Walker, Texas Ranger. I don't know why, but that was the thing. But you know, when you come from that life, a short life expectancy is not prophetic. You know. You buried, listen, by the time I was 20, I buried a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends. Okay, so I know this. I know how it is. I'm from that same world. I get it. You know, I know I was not a blood member or a crip member because they never had traction in New York the way they did in the West Coast. But I had a lot of friends who were Latin King, a lot of friends who were here. I had friends. You know, when you grow up in the hood, that's what you have. And so I've buried a lot of friends and seen a lot of people go. You're not prophetic because you know someone's going to kill you when you're living a lifestyle. Another thing that gets me too, not to talk to, but is this thing about how Pac was prolific. Not really. He made good music. Like, I like Brenda Got a Baby. It's a good song. I like Dear Mama, another good song. But he also got, you know, I Get Around. And he also has those songs that also, you know, spoke about women the other way. Like all rappers do. They all have that contradiction. It's not the only one. They all do. Right. So I just don't see this greatest of all time and this the prolific Pac. And then I like this, the conspiracy goes, oh, they took Pac out because he was going to make a change. What change? Yeah, what change? Listen, I know the people who did his autopsy. I worked for the medical department for years. I know the people who did his autopsy. No, he did. I told him. He dead. Biggie dead. They're not on the island nowhere. They dead. They're in the island of heaven. That's where they at. They're in God, you know, Omega G. That's where he's at. So, you know, this thing about that the white man had to take him out because he was making changes. What changes was he making? Pac didn't change no laws. He didn't organize any marches. He wasn't a catalyst for equal rights and what the fuck. He was a rapper. Well, he was a rapper.
It was him against the world, though.
Yeah, be against the world. All eyes on me.
All eyes on him.
Listen, I think that Tupac spoke to my poetic heart.
Fair enough,
right?
And I could say that.
Yeah, no.
His range was interesting.
For sure,
like,
I agree.
I appreciated the way he was able to write something about, you know, his mother, and then at the same time hold the complete gangster route.
Sure.
You know, and insult, you know, Biggie's wife or something like that. Like,
hey, listen, that's one of the greatest diss songs in history.
It was incredible.
For sure. When he went at Biggie, that was hard.
Biggie's delivery. Oh,
Biggie was a beast, man.
Biggie
was an animal,
his
man.
delivery was very interesting.
Yeah. Biggie was. Listen, I know some
They
guys.
were my favorites.
I know some guys who used to. I'm not gonna say they were like Biggie's boys per se, but I know some guys who knew Biggie from the block, from back when he was hustling and all that. And they said, you know, you hear him freestyle, he can go on and on and on and on off the dome. Nas told the story once about when him and Biggie were doing the song. You know, they're in the studio and Nas is writing stuff down and all that. Biggie's just kind of sitting there. So Nas said that he was having a dry night. He couldn't put anything together. So after, I guess, a couple hours or whatever, he went to Biggie and said, I guess, we'll call it a night. You know, I don't got nothing. You know, you don't got nothing. We'll come at it tomorrow. Biggie said, I got like the whole verse in my head.
Hey, yeah.
And I was like, what? And then Biggie goes in the booth and kills it. Right. And he was like, you know, how? Some people just have a mind for it. Pac was great. Like I said, you'll never hear me say Pac wasn't good. Pac was very good. And I could definitely see his range was insane. His range was crazy. He can do Brenda Got a Baby, he can do Tupacalypse Now. He can go from Dear Mama to All Eyes on Me. You know, yeah, crazy range. For sure. I just think the hype has gotten a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little crazy. Just a bit.
Thinking those things.
For sure, you know.
But it's like that wrestling is a central question. Who's better, Hogan or Macho Man? That's what it was. That's
wrestling?
No, we're not.
It's
a comparison. It's just comparison.
Yeah, when you start talking greatest of all time, it's only subjective.
Yeah,
and it's subjective. In any genre.
All right, so who was the greatest wrestler?
You know wrestling? You know wrestling?
Hogan?
I don't know.
No, Undertaker?
Undertaker's my goat. That's my guy.
Is that Undertaker still going?
Well, he only once a year WrestleMania. That's it. He's not on the road.
He's like Grandpa Taker, right?
He's gonna meet a real Undertaker.
He is. One day he's gonna drop dead right there in the ring, and that's gonna be it.
He's an old man. But yo, look, they had a WrestleMania event just recently, and it's been years since I watched any of that. And this man got on the top rope, walked the top rope.
Like he always did, yeah.
He's got to be what, 50 now?
Easy.
You know,
easy.
So
mess around.
Man can still do it. You know, and it's something like being on the stage. You know, as old as you feel, you know, it kind of disappears for those brief moments. You're in front of the crowd and they're cheering you on, and you regain your youth, and that's what it looked like it happened.
It did.
He suffered a lot of injuries, like with the hips and stuff like that, and your body breaks down. There's only so much of that you can do, flying across the ring, getting beat down.
Ultimate Warrior was my man.
Whether it's scripted,
everybody loved him.
Yeah,
my dude.
Everybody. It's a shame he died young.
It's scripted, but these are real athletes getting real injuries. You know, so you got to respect, and they do it 365 days out of the year. Damn near.
There's no off season for those guys. They go.
Do you remember WrestleMania? I don't know, 1000 when it was back in Julius Caesar's palace, And
I
they had
remember
like,
that.
elephants come out, and they had
Oh,
was it Randy Savage on like the bed with the Egyptian?
Yes, he was commentator at the time.
Holy cow!
He was commentating
Queen
at the time.
Elizabeth was there.
Yep, I remember that.
I think that's when was it the first time that Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage like betrayed each other? Was that the first time?
No, they betrayed each other before that.
Because I remember there was a match.
They had been betrayed each other before that, but that was a good card.
There was a match where I think Hogan was like crawling in the middle of the mat, and he's like going towards Randy Savage, right? He reaches out to like
superpowers, so they're called the mega powers.
and then Randy turns
walked away
back.
from him. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm like, oh, you grimy. Like, Macho Man has some of the greatest interviews.
Oh my god.
They were like,
I know nothing about wrestling.
Cocaine.
I'm gonna put her onto the
Like, but I was just making a
was
like, I wasn't trying to like bring
Sure.
wrestling into the topic, but it was just a comparison about that the greatest of all time is subjective. It's whatever kind of resonated with your personality, with your likes, dislikes, whatever it is.
For sure.
And Pac and Biggie was the equivalent of like Hogan and Randy Savage. If you like Channel 5 and Channel 11,
Yeah, who's the greatest? I mean, you can go by certain things. There are some stats you can go by, like who sold more arenas.
So where does Big Pun fall in all this?
Well, I think Big Pun's one of the greatest ever. The problem with Big Pun is he died too soon.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
he died too soon.
Okay.
I think Big Pun was amazing.
Big Pun
he had the style Big L had, except he did it better.
The only problem with Big Pun, and this became a problem when it became like his last album. He was so heavy that even though he had all that skill, that he couldn't really, get it out on audio because all that weight kind of made him
call up to him.
Mumbled his words.
According to his widow, Liza Rios, he would celebrate with food.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
If he was depressed, food. If it was like some celebration food. As a matter of fact, I worked with Liza a couple of years ago with E2K magazine with Emma. I was able to do her makeup for her shoot. We did a cover for E2K magazine.
That's pretty awesome.
So I mean, Liza, she's a man down to earth.
Yeah.
Really
I hear that about. I've never met her.
Very real. She tells us she shoots for him.
She hates Fat Joe. I tell you.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit! She got some shit to say about Fat Joe.
To her, Joe did some dirty stuff.
Oh, I'm sure he did. He did it to everybody. Why do you think Joe moved to look? I'm gonna go out and say the truth. Joe moved to Florida for a reason. He screwed a lot of fucking people over here. Yeah. There's a lot of
There's rumors that he would come into the hood, not too far from me, to kind of mingle with some of the guys that were doing music and stuff like that, and would try to pay out $500 per song. What's $500 when you can potentially make millions off of it, right?
Right.
And so he was kind of like, it's rumored. I don't know. I wasn't there.
I'm sure. Listen, no one can say for sure, but I'm sure there's some truth to it.
Yeah,
because I've been hearing that about him for a long time. That's not new. That's something that's been said about him for a long time.
Coming up in the Bronx, as a hip hop dancer, whatever, traditionally the big dancer, we would hang around with graffiti artists and rappers, and Joe, was kind of rumored to come to the hood and try to buy you out on a song and not offer you what it was worth.
Yeah.
I don't want to believe it. I mean, to me, it's still a rumor. I don't know the guy personally. I think he does great music. But if Liza has a problem with him, something's got to be up,
Well, to be fair, if you look at the whole terror, just look at what happened to his crew. Because if you want to see what someone's about, look at what happens to the crew. I believe in that, right? So, the Terror Squad, back in the day. You have Frankie Cutlass, who had some talent. You had the Evil Twins. You had Remy Ma, right? Was on his label, and you had that other kid that was singing that song. I can't remember his name. Spanish kid that said "Sugar, sugar, so fly." That's him. Well, I forget his name, but he was like a one-hit wonder. And all those dudes.
Something
Yeah, something like that.
Something B.
Yeah,
something B.
Something. Yeah, it had some bugged out name. But all those dudes, like, what happened to them? All of them. Whatever happened to them? They never got put onto anything. Puffy did the same thing. Listen, he wrote Biggie the Superstar because he saw Biggie was a cash cow. But Mary J. Blige didn't really blow up, and had Mary J. Blige had longevity in her career because she left. Because she left Diddy. I guarantee, had she stood in Bad Boy, she wouldn't have had the longevity she's had. No way. He kind of tossed her aside, and it was all about Biggie. He did that to a lot of people. Mace blew up commercially after Biggie died. And he needed something, so Mace came up. Mace was the most solid because Mace had a really strong underground rep. He's Murder Mace. So he had a really strong underground rep.
Did Mace become like a preacher?
Oh, he became Pastor Mace, then he came back and was trying to be Murder Mace again. And then went back to be Pastor. Because he signed with G Unit. But I don't know if he ever made that. I don't know how that album even turned out. I couldn't even take it seriously. But he had signed with G Unit for a time.
I mean, if you want to be a preacher and a rapper at the same time,
you gotta do.
I think it's fine if you're gonna do like
Christian rap, right? Really Christian rap, like Lecrae or some of these other guys that do Christian rap.
Well, what is it? Can't Murder Mace.
Yeah, you can't be talking
about. And then be like, all right, I'm going back to church on Sunday, and I'm gonna.
I be slapping the hoes. Amen. Yo, homie.
You gotta pick a lane. Craig Mack became involved in the church and stuff like that.
But
before he died, he stood there. He didn't come back. He picked a lane. Heavy D, before he died, he switched over to reggae.
Oh, right.
But I think Heavy D was Jamaican, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
He was Jamaican. Yes, so it wasn't like a far, like, kind of. And early in Heavy D's career, he did a little reggae. Early in his career. Very early. I'm talking like early in his career.
And he did it right. He had somewhat of a cult following.
I'm a Heavy D guy.
I like Heavy D.
Heavy D is I don't know how much Minnesota's into hip hop. I don't know much about that.
Not really.
I didn't think so.
I didn't think so because I can't contribute that.
No. I understand. We go back. But
we learned a lot about.
We learned. We learned. You know, it's give and take. But Heavy D is an example. He's one of my favorite guys, and the reason for that is because he embodies an era where hip hop was fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. That's what I love about him.
Well, you know why?
I do.
You know why?
He's the overweight lover, baby.
No, he got nothing but love for you.
He got nothing but love for you, baby. Remember that? You know, but he had great music. He had fun music. He had positive music.
Anytime I think back,
positive music, fun, positive music. Yeah, that's why I love him.
I still listen to his stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah. Tribe Quest. Those guys are Young MC. Those guys are relics from an era where hip hop was fun and hip hop had something to say, something legitimate to say. Now they all just sound like clones of each other. I can't tell one from the next.
Lord.
I can't tell one from the next. No fun saying.
I mean,
my niece is into
this. Art, though.
Not to me. I mean, they'll say yeah, but I don't think so.
The artist in me. The artists are incredible.
The artist in me.
About the lyrics, but it's a form of expression.
But it's so easy to make these beats now because you go on a computer and make them.
But it's not just about the. It's not about the beats, and it's even not about the lyrics. It's expressionism, and the fruit artists in me will have to support them because even though I don't like what they're doing, they're doing their expression. Yes, it's a copycat of something else, but how many copycats are Andy Warhol? How many copycats are Rembrandt? You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of
how many people are inspired by the generations that come before? So now you got this mumble rap. You know, we're in the mumble rap era. You know.
I can't stand it personally.
I hate it.
But it's still a form of expression.
I guess.
You know,
if it's being expressed by
some people like Picasso.
This is why art is subjective. Like you said,
yeah, it's subjective.
The best of the word is all subjective because your 14-year-old might be like, "This is the best thing."
Our niece, 15 years old, and she is in it. Yeah. Like she knows the lyrics to all this shit.
I can't.
I'm like, you know the lyrics of Mumbles?
I don't know how they do it. I can't. It's just. Look, you know, I know that there's something that happens.
You get old. That's what it is.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I know there's something that happens.
That was more evident than the fucking party yesterday.
You ain't lying.
Old fucks.
Our cousin celebrated his 50. Ralph Red, happy birthday, bro. You know, he celebrated his 50th yesterday, so we had this party for him. And the DJ, you know, was playing some modern stuff, playing some salsa, because of course, you're not going to get a bunch of Ricans together and not play salsa. That's just not going to happen.
And that was fine.
Which was dope, was awesome. Then he starts playing 80s and 90s hip hop. We hit that floor. We're on the floor rapping the music. And the younger ones are looking at us like, what the hell are these people talking about? You know, like there's an engine. Like I saw my nephew. He's there, and there's a part that's a engine number 9 on the New York. You know, and my nephew's like engine number. What the hell is that nonsense? He's lost. He don't get it. You know, he's lost. And I'm looking at him like, boy, what is wrong with you? That's like the Bible of rap. Get out of here. I want to hear you. That's like saying you don't know the commandments. Get out of my face. You know, get out of here. You know.
But that's how it is, man. You can't be all the time.
There's age, but I feel like even if you don't like music from a particular era, you can hear a message. You know, you can hear a message.
Not if you're mumbling.
Not if you're mumbling. Take the marbles out your mouth.
Not if you're mumbling.
My problem with this era of music is, at least in hip hop, is I hear no message. I hear no message. I don't hear anything worth saying. I hear I have money. I hear I have cars. I hear I have women. And the women rappers are saying I have cars, I have money, and I also have women. You're getting that from them too. You know. There's very little original. When we were growing up, Pac didn't sound like Biggie. Biggie didn't sound like Jay-Z.
Right.
Jay-Z didn't sound like Snoop. You knew everybody's style. Everybody had their style, right? Now they all sound the same. With the exception, I like Kendrick Lamar. I think he's talented.
Kendrick is cool.
I think I like a couple guys.
I like Childish Gambino.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool too. A couple of guys, but more often than not, I just hear each one just saying the exact same thing the guy before said, with no message or nothing valid to say.
The thing that I find interesting is that the two people that you do mention, Childish Gambino and Kendrick Lamar, are the two people who are making a point to do additional art outside of what they're doing.
Independent as well.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, Childish Gambino,
aka Donnie Glover.
Donnie Glover is also a comedian. He's
And
an
an
actor. I believe he does poetry and he does TV. I mean, the guy's doing all kinds of stuff.
He's going to be in the new Star Wars movie. The new
Lando
Calrissian in the new.
I heard that. That's true, huh?
It's
I
true.
heard
In the
that.
new Han Solo movie. And Kendrick
He was
Lamar,
doing a Deadpool until he got
right. Kendrick Lamar, he lives a little bit more in the spoken word side of things, but he does pure poetry and things like that. And that is why, and I think that's why it sets them apart, is because they are striving to elevate their art form. Versus, I'm just going to do, it's still an art form, it'll always be an art form, but to me, the true artists are the ones that are elevating what they can do in the art form to the next level, and they're trying. And whether, like, opinions, and this is where I have some opinions on rap music, but, like, Kanye is a love him or hate him type of person.
For sure.
But you cannot deny he's trying to do something new and different each time.
And you can't deny he's talented.
Yeah.
He's a nut job.
Yeah.
He's fucking crazy.
I think he's bipolar.
I think he's by cocaine. He lives by cocaine.
But I think the reason that he does
Fucking
that he may take cocaine is because I think that he goes manic, where he's up, and that's when he has his most creativity, when he's on these high streaks, and then he gets depressed and he shoots way back down. And in order to elevate himself back to where he feels he's the most creative, what do? Exactly. And there's a lot of artists out there who that's why they turn to drugs and alcohol, because they feel that they're their most creative when they're in their manic state. And then what comes with bipolar is you live in the mania for a day, a week, a month, and then you shoot down and you're at rock bottom for however long, and you need to do whatever you can to get yourself back up to where
Right, very little middle ground.
And so whether or not you like any of these rappers, they're doing something to try to elevate their art form. And the ones that you don't like, the mumblers, are living in the same thing, rapping about the same thing, with different styles of beats behind them, different words, but it's still the same message. They're not doing anything to change it.
That's right. You have to be
as honest as it gets.
Yeah, no, you have to be high on cocaine to come up with Bound to, or Hot Like Bling, or or any one of those crazy ass songs.
Listen, man, I'm a Chicago win till Chicago ends. That's a little coke, on the brain. I'm telling you, that's a little, it's a little bit there. Let me ask you something. All right, you were a dancer. You did dancing for a while. How did that get to makeup?
A transitional question.
How do we get to makeup?
Thank you for bringing it up, because
makeup is always part of entertainment. Period. I think. Even as a 14-year-old in dancing, I would be the one to do the makeup for the other girl.
Or you were that girl?
I was that girl. I was the go-to girl.
I got a date tonight, girl. You got a
yes, prom. I was the go-to girl. I don't know what it is. I think that it started with art, drawing, sketching.
Do you still draw and sketch?
Occasionally. I can't pull myself.
It's funny because she translates that into the makeup.
That I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, that I do.
She translates.
I'll sketch an idea and then put it on the body or the face. So, as a dancer, I did everyone's makeup growing up. It turned into like brides and club nights and all this other stuff. And anytime I'm ready to like walk away from it, something pulls me back in. Another opportunity, another.
Is that your dream, like to the beauty?
My dream is to raise enough money to invest in my inventions. So I have
inventions.
I have inventions that I've written down and I planned. I have business plans for them and everything. So if I gotta like shake on a pole, like I just need a couple of dollars to get these projects.
Listen, I know girls who's on the
pole.
I know some doctors who shook on a pole. I'm just saying, I do. I personally do.
Yeah, I mean,
the ultimate goal is to fund those projects, But for now, I have the 9 to 5 during the day, and then at night I like to do, face painting, body painting, glam makeup. I started a YouTube tutorial a long time ago.
That's awesome.
It has cobwebs, but I'm getting back into it. And recently I've been re-inspired. I think I was in a really deep, dark place the last couple of years.
Sure.
My
sounds like we've all been there.
Yeah, my soul was really suffering. I was trying to get over a couple of things, and now that I'm kind of like.
So light in that tunnel.
Right, there's a light in my tunnel. I've done a lot of healing, and so now like those ideas are starting to flourish.
Let me ask you a question. You don't have to, of course, the person likes the person likes, but I just want to ask this: while you were going through these trials, what helped you get? Writing. Even though I was uninspired.
Hold on, I'll take a break to stare at the camera for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna look at him.
Leave me alone, man.
Right, we do a 360, right? Right. I didn't have to speak to anybody. I didn't have to, sing and dance and do whatever. I was just like waking up in the middle of the night, writing down a dream I had. In the subway, something would come to mind. I would jot it down on my phone or on my notepad. That was my way of kind of like documenting my journey and expressing my feelings, And now that I'm starting to, get back into the game. A lot of that poetry is coming to life in my art.
That's triumph. I like that. That's a story about triumph. That's awesome. Yeah. That's moving. That's moving. It's real. It's organic, and it's inspirational. Because it doesn't even matter what the trial is. Right? I mean, we all go through our trials. We all go through our dark times for different reasons. And it doesn't really matter what the trial is. What matters is how you get through it. And so you found your way, you found your avenue, and now you're bouncing back, and you're in that rebuilding stage of your life, and that is awesome. That is awesome. I have a lot of respect for you. And that's pretty cool.
I'm happy to be here with you guys. I know that with the stuff that I went through, God knows most times where, maybe I wouldn't be here, right? Alive. So I'm glad. I'm really appreciative of this.
And that's it. We're glad to have both of you. Both of you have been a treasure.
Oh yeah.
Because what I love about the two of you is you come from completely different places, and you have your dreams, and you have your dreams, and you come from one side of the world, and you come from the other, and yet you found this commonality. You found this commonality. You found this friendship, and you're planning on doing projects together in addition to your own individual stuff. And it's from that where great things spring. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future, both individually and as a group. And it's been awesome having you guys.
Yay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That has been awesome having you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys coming through. This is phenomenal. I'm so looking forward.
You really did.
You actually drove over here, right?
Yeah.
I took the train to Close, and then she picked me up on the way.
Okay.
Because I live on the island, 144th and Broadway.
Oh,
so.
wow.
I love how she said that.
The island.
The island. Well, you're from Minnesota, you gotta say it. I'm from the island.
I'm from the island. Yeah.
I'm from the island.
No, the storm that we got right now dumped 13 inches of snow on my parents yesterday. So
That is rough.
it's thankfully our temperatures are not cold enough here for that to ever be 13 inches of snow. We're just getting a lot
But
of rain,
let me tell you, how long have you lived in New York now?
a year.
Okay, I remember in the 90s,
Ooh.
we had some blizzards, man. I was a delivery boy. I was delivering for this diner called the Lucky Dog Cafe on 11th Street and First Avenue.
I know that.
It's closed down, been gone. It was a great drunk spot. Everybody went in there was drunk from. They went to Webster Hall and then went over there.
Wow,
So it's crazy. I know it's a shame it's not around anymore. But I was a delivery boy in '94, and of course during the snowstorm, everybody called in. So I'm trudging through snow to deliver this stuff, and after
good tips.
Hell no. Not even close. One guy gave me $5. One guy gave me
$5 back then was okay.
Well, that's a good tip. I mean, it was a good tip, but everybody else, man, a buck. Yeah, I was delivering in Stuyvesant Town, and everybody there has money, and who have money don't like to spend it. So I was just trudging through that snow like a damn Eskimo. I was hearing the wolves in the distance howling. And I thought I saw a polar bear next to a building, and I go in this building, and the elevator's not working, so I trudge up 5 floors, and then I got a quarter tip.
Damn!
I wanted to kick her in the throat.
You should have just kicked her in the throat.
You should have kicked her food down the hallway.
I should have punted her food. Bitch! Send it down the hole.
You
gotta watch me eat your food in front of you.
It sucked. That sucked.
So that blizzard of '94, I was Columbus High School, not too far from here, and
I know Columbus.
We had to troop it through Oak Parkway to get to the train, and it took us about 2 hours. It's really a 10-minute walk, but in the snow, it took us about 2 hours to get there.
You couldn't
But it was the best time.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah, you hit each other with snowballs, body slam each other in the snow, do all that fun kid stuff.
That stuff.
No, for sure.
But yeah, I really look forward to seeing what you're gonna come up with.
I am. Listen, when you get a role, I expect to get.
Yeah, I'm gonna see that. I'm like,
that you're in a show somewhere, because I will be there to see it.
Yeah. I will.
I will be there to see it.
Definitely.
I will be there to see it, and when I want to hear some of your poetry. We gotta do something. Yeah.
She hit me with some stuff. She was like, I came up with this on the spot. I'm like, damn, that's really good.
Oh, you want to go off the dome, girls?
No, but she was like, no, I have a confession to make. I wrote that a while back. I
want to see if you could believe that I could write some shit like that.
Yeah, no, I can totally
on the spot.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do some when we hear some of that poetry.
I got you.
Unless she wants to.
I mean, like we hit a open mic, and it was really good. It just kind of kick fired that need to write, because I haven't wrote anything a lot, and I don't really write poetry a lot. Somehow it starts off as like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write poetry, and then becomes a rap song. So
well, I mean, poetry is rap.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it definitely kicked fire some like this verse. Like, I want to do this, but I'm already thinking about not just the words, but how to film it, how to spice it together.
He did a song. It was the funniest thing years ago.
Which one we talking about?
He did a song where he completely made fun of himself. The whole song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the whole song. It was brilliant though. It was
actually, I remember it.
He just made fun of himself. He completely made fun of himself.
Like
the whole
3 minute, 5 minute song.
I'm like, damn, Tom, you don't like yourself? Is that what this is? You need a hug? You need a hug?
No, it was funny.
Hashtag you need a hug?
It was so fun.
Oh, you got something?
Well, not that I'm spitting now, but
oh yeah, don't tease me.
In this poem, I am insulting myself because I tend to be, you already know, hot-headed. Right?
No, I never would have guessed that.
Hot-headed, and my anger gets in the way with some beautiful things. And so this poetry was like using that anger redirected to me. Like, get your act straight.
You have to focus. Like anything, it's about focusing. Anger's an emotion, hatred's an emotion, they're all emotions, sadness is an emotion. It's just about the focusing of those emotions.
And when you can turn the focus onto yourself like that and do it in a clever way, then your mind thinks abstract. You know what I'm saying? You can pick clever ways to say, oh, well, I pull a tone, that kind of thing, because it's your mind saying, yeah, I don't take myself too seriously. And that was the whole point of what I did. I did another song, another one called No Doctor.
Yeah. That was funny.
That
was funny. He does a lot of comedy stuff. He's that way.
I'll flip it. I'll do serious, and then I'll go 180 on it, because I don't take it seriously. I really don't.
Hamilton. I think it's what you want. He get you on Hamilton.
Well, I know people in Hamilton, so it's just all about having them hook me up with the right, whether it's their agents or whether it's the casting director.
It's who you know.
It is.
It is who you know.
I might know a person named Hamilton. I don't know.
Well, I'm a firm believer. It's who you know, but it's also how do you treat the people around you, because the people that you know will see that, whether it's treating other people or how you treat them. Sure. I know some brilliant actors, both here and at home in Minnesota, and I do not believe for 1 second that they're genuine people. But they're brilliant actors, and I can see that, and I go, okay, I don't think that you're genuine. I think you do good work, but I don't think you're genuine. I think it's going to catch up to you one day.
Sure. But when you hear famous people talk about Hollywood, for example, you get that a lot. You get that a lot when you hear them talk about actors, that you never get the genuine person, because an actor is always trying to jockey for that next role. So when they're at a party or when they're somewhere, a lot of times it's very rare. Like, you're a rare person.
I think there's a difference between people wanting to do it to become famous and people wanting to do it for the art form.
Right.
For sure.
And I think like Daniel Day-Lewis and Meryl Streep are really great examples of that. They both have become famous because they're really great at their art form, but I don't ever for a moment believe that they just went out there. Denzel, too, great example. Did not go out there with the purpose of, I want to be a famous actor. They went out there, I want to be an actor.
Right, because I love this.
Don't care. He's doing the Broadway show right now.
I heard that, yes, Denzel's on Broadway.
His name is bigger than the name of the show. That's how you know that you've made it. It says Denzel in huge letters and then tiny underneath in the iceberg of it. It's just like people are going to see Denzel and only Denzel, but I think that any one of those actors would have been happy being not so well known as long as they did good work and as long as they felt satisfied as an actor. And those are the ones that are genuine.
They take the craft seriously.
They really take the craft seriously.
Like Meryl Streep, like the movie could be shit. You like Meryl Streep.
That's why she has 20-something Oscar nominations, because she takes it seriously.
Sure.
Matter of fact, she was in that movie, The Post.
Yeah.
With Tom Hanks. I mean, as a movie, I was like, whatever. But Tom Hanks and her, I didn't even complain about it. They were good. It was almost like, of course, you expect them to be good in everything they do, because they take the role they do seriously.
Sure.
And they take a shit script and do the best they can with it.
I saw an interview with Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's son.
Yeah.
And
it's just like him.
It
is insane.
It is scary how much he looks like his dad. They showed a picture of his father in High Plains Drifting when he was doing the westerns back then, and then they showed him. And it's like, you can't tell them apart. No. It's nuts. And he's the only one that looks that much.
I think he did himself, and then it was mitosis or something. They just separated.
He cloned himself and made Scott Eastwood.
His cell split.
Did you know that his son Scott Eastwood dates Black Girls?
Oh snap!
I heard that.
There was a girl that he was dating, and I guess she died in a car accident. Right.
Yeah,
they were very serious, and he didn't go to her funeral. He didn't talk to her family for a couple of years, and apparently it was something who recently reached out and he really apologized to her family. He said, it was so devastating for me, I had to shut myself off from everything that reminded me
of her.
And let me tell you, as a product of a mixed race relationship, I love seeing that like whether it's public or not public, I'm like, it goes to make it more known, make it more aware, because there's too many people I think who don't talk about it enough. It was still taboo when my parents got married in the mid-80s.
Oh, of course. Yeah, back then, for sure.
Especially in the Midwest.
For sure. Absolutely true. Right? Especially in the Midwest. I mean, in New York, you always saw interracial dating. I mean, as far back as I was born in '78, but as a kid growing up, I always saw a black and Puerto Rican together, or even a white person.
But did you still even have like some old school who's like,
oh yeah, for sure. I've heard that. But listen, I dated a Japanese girl for a short amount of time, and believe me, her family was none too happy about that. We were kids, we're not going to get married or anything. But her father made it very well known, by the way he brandished that katana sword, that he wasn't thrilled about me dating his daughter. And let me tell you,
my dad did the same thing with the machete.
But I expect that from the boy. There's another thing when you got a guy you don't know if he's a samurai or not. You're like, man, does he have the skill to go along with that?
Is he Yakuza?
Is he Yakuza? Am I gonna see a bunch of tattoos and he takes off his shirt? Then I know he's gonna kill me, my grandmother, even the goldfish. Everybody's gonna get it. But a lot of times, yeah, for sure.
I didn't have that issue. Everybody loved me.
Yeah, you're a lovable guy.
Am I?
Yeah, you're a lovable guy. I mean, I don't like you, but everyone else does.
That's wonderful.
No. But yeah, even then, you definitely had some people. Look, there were certain neighborhoods in New York, like in the Village and stuff like that, where levels of Chelsea and gay people get together. And it was just known that was a gay neighborhood, right? And you always had those who were fine with it, didn't care. Then you had those who were like in my neighborhood, you didn't often see gay people. Very rare. And if you did, a lot of times they would get chased with bottles. People throw bottles at them, chase them, beat them up. Like that shit happened all the time.
Still taboo.
The only gay people that didn't happen to was the gay dudes from the neighborhood who fought everybody. So they kind of had a certain level of respect because we knew this guy may be like we say, maricón, but he's tough.
They come in with the
I know one of those.
Yeah, you don't get that, but more often than not, more often than not, you always had the trans. And they used to, as a kid, get beat up. And
I have a funny trans story.
Oh, go for it. There's always that. Right, I'm
Let's go.
So I was on my way to meet my boyfriend. I was like 18 years old, and I'm driving a Honda Civic, right? And that's like my stereotypical for Puerto Rican in the Bronx.
95, 94.
And I go and my car breaks down in the South Bronx.
And by the time she came out the car, the whole platform was
No, my car breaks down, and I'm the hood, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on in there, blah blah blah. And I see this sequin dress like walking up the street. It's a sequin dress, so all you see is sparkles with the street lamps and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh my god, what the hell is that? It's like 6'1", comes on over. Do you need any help? And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know what's going on. This what's the proper term for it? I mean, is it trans?
Well, transgender.
Do I say she?
If she was presenting as a female, then yes, it's she.
Okay, so then
we're not gonna go.
Transvestites. What about this, guys?
She, assists me with the car, and for some reason, gets the car running and everything, and it was just like a beautiful moment, in the South Bronx. Especially since I made it out alive.
Separate podcast conversation.
That's a whole separate podcast conversation.
Because it's the verbiage and the language and the understanding of it is ever changing. And
we definitely got
way too sensitive.
The he's and the she's and the
everybody's offended. Everybody's.
Listen, I have.
What it comes down to is I say, what do you want to be called?
This is my thing, and me and him have had this discussion before. When he told me he wanted to be.
You must understand. I have these needs, and you're not helping.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be sensitive. No. Look, this is the way I look at it. Play this simple. If you want to change your name and be called Stephanie and you were born Stephen, and you want me to call you Stephanie, I'll respect your wishes and I'll call you Stephanie. If that's what you want.
Even if Stephanie has a beard.
Whatever. That's what we call I'll call you Stephanie. Here's where I draw lines. Because I have lines. And here's where I draw lines. I am not going to pretend, nor am I going to act as though you are a woman. You are not a woman. You may think you're a woman, but you're not. There are some just damn scientific things here that I refuse to ignore because it makes you feel bad. Men and women are two separate genders. Just because you identify as a woman doesn't make you a woman. If I identified as a 80-year-old sumo wrestler, that doesn't make me an 80-year-old sumo wrestler.
You keep believing.
Yeah, I'll keep believing. I believe. I treat everybody with respect. I believe in everybody's rights. I believe in everybody's rights. I don't believe in hate, and I don't believe in dictating to people what they can and can't do, who they can marry. Listen, I'm all for gay marriage. My wife's cousin is gay. I love him. He's a very, very dear friend as well as family. He gets married, I'm there. I'll go right out. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But my problem is when you're going to dictate to me science. You're not going to tell me, oh, well, a guy who identifies as a woman is a woman. No, you're not. You're a dude who thinks he's a woman. There's a difference. Especially when I see it in sports. When you have these transgender dudes competing in women's sports, and that's happening more and more.
That's a big can of worms, though.
Yeah, that's a problem. Like there was a problem. There was a problem. There's a girl in wrestling right now. Well, a boy in wrestling right now who identifies as a girl, and he is smashing these chicks on the wrestling mat. There are some clear biological differences between men and women. There are biological differences. Testosterone levels, organs, reproductive organs. I mean, it's fifth grade biology. It's nothing complicated. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. Okay? So when you tell me, oh, I'm a woman, no, you're not. You're really not. If you want me to call you Stephanie, I would expect to call you Stephanie. So, you want to wear your dress? I will never tell you can't wear a dress. That is your right. Rock that dress all you want. But I draw the lines when you tell me, oh, well, I'm a female. No, you're not. You're not. It's not reality.
Therapy, does it
Here's what hormone therapy does. Hormone therapy, depending on what you're doing, if you're a guy transitioning into a female, it's going to lessen the testosterone that you produce. Because men produce more testosterone, whereas women produce more estrogen. Right. Instead of testosterone and stuff, it gets all, so it gets all chemical. As a man transitioning into a woman, they produce less testosterone. As such, the point is to make them look more feminine. Right? Whereas their features become a little smaller, not as rugged. Their bone density changes. Their muscular, their muscle mass changes. Things like that. Right? It's like the reverse of taking steroids. When you take steroids, your testosterone levels go through the roof. Your muscle mass, your bone density decreases. It's the opposite of that. Right? So they do this in an attempt to become more feminine. But even when you do that, if that person was to die right now, and they did an autopsy on him, they know it was a dude. They would say it's a dude probably transitioning into a woman, but it's a dude.
I mean, if they change the strength of
the
person,
9 times out of 10,
still be considered.
Yeah, because he hasn't transitioned. He's still a dude. He's just like I identify as a female, and it was happening the other way. There was a fighter.
Does he still have his junk?
Yeah, absolutely he does.
Women?
Yes, because he identifies as a woman, and so out of respect to his beliefs, there was a fighter, Fallon Fox, beating the fuck out of women. Yo, it was a dude that dressed as a chick.
That person was
huge, ripped, smashing chicks. Bang! I mean, these fighters not China. No, China was a chick. But China was a chick who took steroids. Yeah. So it gave her much more masculine features.
What it does is it opens up the conversation of separating gender identity and physical gender attributes.
For sure.
And when it comes to physical gender attributes and competing in things like sports, it is a can of worms that we have never experienced in the human race before.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's native cultures that have had transgender people in their native cultures going back generations, thousands of years. In Hawaii, there's a specific word for it. In some Native American cultures, there's a very specific, it's like a gender in between both. It's very specific. Yeah. But they didn't necessarily have the type of elevated sporting institutions like that we do, where it's on TV and where we're putting athletes on Wheaties boxes and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so it's a separate conversation that's related. But, ultimately, when it comes down to it, the person dies, you have an autopsy, what do your chromosomes say?
Exactly.
Your chromosomes do say one thing, but like you said, if you want to be called Stephanie and you want me to refer to you as she and you want to wear the dresses, that's what I will do because that is how you feel most comfortable. But the second Stephanie starts competing against other women.
Against Jennifer, who was born with a vagina as opposed to Stephanie.
And doesn't have the natural.
I have a problem.
And that's when it does become an issue.
And it's something what you said historically about they were always like in Thailand, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They have the girl boys or the boy girls, whatever you call them.
It's a respected part of their culture.
It's a respected part of their culture. Now here's the thing. some cultures, like on the East, which is funny because they tend to be a lot more homophobic than we are. A lot more cultures in the eastern part of the world. They had, it was like a separate little subculture within their culture, right? People who were, and a lot of times people who were gay were thrown into that culture. Men who liked men were put into that culture because they had feminine tendencies because they wanted to sleep with men. Same thing with women sleeping with women, right? Even the Vikings, and that's about as masculine as you get, they had a name for it too. They had a name for that also. There, you know, and sometimes that name wasn't necessarily used for people who wanted to become women or acted feminine, but it also was a way to, it was a play on your sexual preference, right? So if you liked guys in a culture that was taboo, that's how you would be classified. In the Greeks, homosexuality was a thing, and it wasn't a big thing. It was not, many men had male lovers, and it was perfectly fine. It wasn't a thing. They still got married and had children to carry on that's what mattered.
Carry on the bloodline.
And to carry the bloodline, especially amongst nobility, especially amongst the aristocracy.
If you have that son, you can sleep with as many men or women as you want.
And if the woman knew, 9 times out of 10, she didn't give a shit unless she really loved you, you know, and then it would be a problem. But it was a thing in Rome also. That was a thing in Rome. There were manly men, warriors, soldiers. It was a thing in Rome too. But the thing was, everybody kind of understood. You never heard a person in Greece, or at least according to the histories, you never heard about a person saying, "Oh, I'm a woman." No, you're a dude. You like men, but you're a dude. My wife's cousin, he's gay. He said, "I'm a gay man. I'm a man. I just like men." Perfect. I understand. And hey, I believe that barring psychological trauma or molestation, most people who are gay are born that way. That's my opinion. The reason that's my opinion is because sexuality is a very primal, instinctive thing.
You know at age 4
Bingo.
when you like your little your
I like girls. No one told me to like girls. Wasn't anyone instructing me to like girls. It's normal, right? And I think it's very much the same for them, barring people who've gone through trauma. There are instances where women's been raped and she kind of started dating women because of the trauma that man inflicted upon her, molestation, things like that. But those things are not the majority of gay people. They're not. They're a small percentage. So that's a separate issue. When you start talking about transgender and all this, I don't want to run the Ben Shapiro line because he's a hard conservative. But there's something he says that I kind of tend to agree with. It is a form of gender dysphoria. It is kind of, you know, and I hate to call it an illness because I don't want to sound completely insensitive, but I do think there is something to that. If you're a dude and you feel as though you're not in the right gender, that is an illness. That there's a problem there. The only thing is that now we have the surgery where you can do whatever the hell you want. We have technology that can change damn near anything, you know, or give you the appearance of change.
So here's my question to you about it. So you say you know when you're 4. Nobody told you to like girls. Nobody told you, you know, the girls that you just knew instinctually.
Right,
that
I was attracted to them.
I'm not transgender. So I can't say that this is how it is for every single person who's transgender.
Right.
But if someone came up to you and said, I instinctually knew when I was 4 that I was a girl. I felt like a girl. I thought like a girl. That's it. That's what it felt. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is then using that.
How do you know what a girl feels like? If you're a little boy saying that I feel like a girl, how do you know what a girl feels like?
Maybe that's the only thing they can think of because they feel different.
Right.
They feel different, and the only thing they can equate that to is I feel like a girl.
And there's a feminine energy, right? But then there's like feeling like a girl. You don't know what a girl feels like if you're just still a boy. So
that's a good point.
It's a question of, you know, I just like the color pink. I just like playing with dolls. You know, but there's girls that like to play with little trucks and little G.I. Joes.
And that's why there's a lot of discussion right now about kids who say they're transgender and whether or not parents should let them do hormone blockers, because there's a TV show called I Am Jazz. It's about
I know the show. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because they let her do hormone blockers so she wouldn't go through male puberty. Right. You would not know, looking at Jazz or whatever her name is, that she still has male genitalia. You wouldn't know looking at her.
Yeah, no, for sure you wouldn't.
She took hormones starting from the age of 11. She has large natural breasts. She has hips. She has a butt. She looks like a girl.
Does she put on?
No, she's a kid.
No, she's a kid. She became a transgender kids activist, and then TLC gave her a reality show to kind of follow her activism.
Because I'm thinking about the little boy who, you know, sees himself as a girl and he dresses up and sings in the So that's a whole different
It's a whole
person.
different person, yeah. And so right now on the current season, because it happens to be after one of my other favorite reality shows that I watch, they are discussing doing the surgery to complete her transition. And she's one of the first to do it at such a young age. She's one of the first to do the hormone blockers, and it took many therapists to sign off on it because it was one of those things where how do you know you won't change your mind? How do you know that this is how you're going to feel when you're 18, 19, 25, 30? But the question is, what if you still feel that way at 18, 19, 25, 30, and you've now gone through male puberty, which is what leads to suicide rates in teens who are transgender? You know, that's the line that people are walking, and I'll be curious to continue to learn more about it over the next 30 to 50 years, because I think one day we're going to have brain scans or the type of concrete scientific evidence that's going to point out and narrow down what it is.
Like the same way we have that with schizophrenia.
Yeah, I think one day we're going to have that, whether it's they figure out the chemical imbalance, whether they figure out the brain waves working
maybe some type of chromosomal issue.
Whatever it is, I think that science will eventually get there.
I think so too.
But whether or not it's in my lifetime, who knows? It could be. I mean, the
My
science
kid tells me that. I'm sorry, but
I know, we've had this conversation.
You ain't getting
before.
You know what?
You
To
ain't
answer
no
the
damn
question, I kind of know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
So,
But then would you say that sexual identity then is a dysphoria as well? Because like that's kind of where, because the word dysphoria is the part that I thought interesting as a choice of words, because if a 4-year-old comes to you and says, I like boys, because a little boy, 4-year-old boy, I like boys because it's instinctual, and they also say, but how do you know? I don't know, just because I do, it's instinctual. And they come up to you and they say, I think I'm a girl. How do you know? I don't know, it's the way that I think, it's instinctual.
I would say, I mean, that's a damn good question.
It is, and it's
That's
not one
that's
we can answer
right.
in a minute.
No, for sure. I would say the only way I mean, I'm a layman's science nerd. Of course, I'm not a scientist, but I'm someone who's pretty well versed. And from what I've read, in my layman's experience, from what I've read, it comes down to this. Your average kid, it's a regular run-of-the-mill boy, heterosexual boy or girl, there are certain things in nature that are always at work. Right? There are always certain things that are at work. And one of those things, of course, is the development of your sex drive, which is the scientific need to reproduce. That's really all, in the end, it's all about reproduction. And sometimes people are late bloomers, sometimes they start very young, and you can see the workings of that sex drive and that need to reproduce. Every so often you see that at a very young age, with kids already starting to like girls very young. And that's just kind of the natural growth of heterosexual boys and girls, because that is the species need, the genetic requirement of passing on our genes to and create the next generation. When you start talking about people who are gay, let's just say gay, forget about transgender, just gay people. When you start getting to gay people, now you start treading a different line. They feel attracted the same way that we feel for, a straight man would feel for a woman, they feel for another man. And there's something in the wiring in their head, whatever that may be, whether it's some type of chemical imbalance, some type of chromosomal issue, or whatever it is, there's something in their head that kind of wires them the other way. Now transgenders. When you start getting to transgenders, there's a big difference between what you want sexually and who you are as a person. There's a big difference. If you're a gay man, like I use my wife's cousin as an example because he's the closest one. He identifies as a man. He never once will tell you I'm a female or I'm a chick. I mean, he can act a little feminine. He has some feminine tendencies, but overall, you ask him, he'll tell you I'm a gay man. Right? His sexuality has nothing to do with who he is. What makes transgender so interesting is that they're tying in their sexuality almost directly with who they are in terms of their gender. So if they're a guy who likes a girl, if they're a man who likes a man, I must be a girl because I like a dude. So I don't know if I would assume that the dysphoria comes in almost like identity dysphoria, where someone has multiple personalities. That's like a form of schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder, where a person, you're born Tony and you think you're Bob. You're Puerto Rican and you think you're a Japanese guy, or something along those lines. Right, exactly. I think that it's a dare I say, some psychologists believe that it's a variation of that. It's some sort of variation of like an identity disorder, except the identity isn't giving you a separate identity. It's a gender identity. I must be a woman. So The only thing I would say to that is, maybe the answer is treating it like you would treat another illness. The problem with using hormone blockers on children is that children are still developing. And we have no way of knowing, because we just started doing this, 20 to 30 to 40 years from now, what kind of damage those hormone blockers are going to do on these children.
And that's one of the issues her parents have on the show.
And that's a problem. Here's another problem.
We don't know what we're doing.
The frontal cortex of the brain, not the joke, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The frontal cortex of the brain is still developing in children up until they're 25. This is a scientific fact, right? Regardless of whatever, that is a fact. That part of your brain is developing up until you're an adult. That part of your brain is the brain that regulates your ability to kind of have a little foresight. In terms of, adults are supposed to have a working knowledge of consequences and actions. Right, I do this is going to happen. And then a lot of times kids do dumb shit, knowing they're probably going to get punished or knowing they're going to get hit. And you're like, why not? Don't you see I whooped your ass for this last time. You're doing it again now. What's wrong with you? A lot of that is because of that part of their brain. They don't necessarily always tie actions and consequences together. That's a scientific fact also. It's impossible to determine what someone is going to feel 10 to 20 years from now. So when you start messing with the metabolism, the physiological structure of a person, be it on a chromosomal level or on a hormonal level, you don't know what kind of dangerous side effects are going to emerge from that going forward. Now here's another fact. There's a good percentage of people who say they identify as another gender when they're young and they grow out of it.
It is. It's very true.
There's a strong percentage that do, and they talk about that all the time. They literally grow out of it. And there was even a story where this one man thanked his mother because she was 2 steps from, because he's in Canada, and in Canada there's a law, a craziness going on in Canada about that. If your child identifies, you have to get him these blockers. That's like a law. Yeah, it's crazy over there. So the guy's from Canada, and he literally went to his mother and thanked her for not doing it. Because he said, had he done it, he doesn't know what's going to happen. Secondly, transgenders have a very high suicide rate. Not just amongst teenagers, amongst the adults. Now, the going theory is the suicide is due to the fact that they're not accepted in society. The problem with that is a conclusion that you can't either prove or disprove. Because once a person dies, you can't ask them what killed them. So how can you can't ask them why they did it. So that's not a statistic anybody can either prove or disprove. It's really not. Because you're not going to know why someone killed themselves unless they left a detailed letter saying why they're doing it. Right? You can guess, you can theorize, you don't know. So you can only take the action into account. The action is there's a high rate of these people killing themselves. That's a higher rate than people who are schizophrenic. That's a higher rate of people who suffer from manic depression. That's a higher rate than people who suffer from rape. All the things that tend to lead to suicide, they're at the top. They are literally at the top of that food chain. When you look at those kind of statistics, you're kind of stuck thinking, maybe this really is a mental disorder. But we're so wrapped in political correctness and not hurting anybody's feelings that if we treat it as such, you're looked at as a homophobe or a transphobe. Oh, I hate trans people because I think that's an illness. Or I hate gay people because I don't agree with gay marriage. We've somehow lost the ability to contextualize things and say, you know what, I don't agree with the homosexual lifestyle. That doesn't mean I hate you as a person or devalue your work as a human being because I don't agree with your lifestyle. We've lost this ability somehow. It's either you're all for gay people or you hate them. No, there's a middle ground. There is a middle ground, right? So the reason why I think years from now, we may be looking at ourselves and saying, why the fuck are we doing this to kids? Yeah. Look at the effects of this now. It's a dangerous thing to play God. It's a very dangerous thing to play God. If my child ever said something like that to me, my answer would be this. When you become an adult, able to make rational, informed decisions, and you feel this is something you want to do, then hey, do what you gotta do. You're my son, I'm never gonna. You're my son or my daughter, no matter what. No matter what. I mean, would it be hard for me? Yes. Would I be crazy about it? No. But I'm never gonna exile my child ever. So it's something I just have to learn to deal with. But when you're an adult and you can make those kinds of informed decisions, that's a difference. When you're going because a child says something, a child who has no real understanding of their own body, who has no real understanding of the statistics behind their actions, who we don't even know what the side effects of these hormone blockers are going to do 20 to 30 years from now. We have no knowledge of this. This is all new. So I think you're taking a very, very big gamble.
It sounds to me like that kid is an experiment of anything.
In a way, she is.
They're aware of that. She's the first for a lot of things. It was a lot of family discussion, and it was a lot of, we acknowledge that we are taking a huge risk with all these things, but they're choosing to do it at the expense of what they feel is their daughter's mental health. You know, and that's kind of, and the parents still struggle with these decisions every episode.
God forbid that young person kills himself, because mind you, a lot of the people who commit suicides have gone through the transition. That's the thing also. It's not as if the transition is a cure-all. It's not. A high percentage of people who commit these suicides, because I think they have like a 40% suicide rate. It's like a preposterous number. It's a really high number. And a lot of them who commit suicide have gone through the stages and gone through the transitions. So it's not even as though, right, it's not even as though you can say, oh, well, they went through the stages and they're okay now. Look, if there was a choice between that and saving my son's life, I'll have to do it, because I would never want to think about losing a child, no matter how crazy I think that shit may be. Right. But there's not even evidence to show that doing this is going to save him. Yeah. You know, so I don't know. To me, I think it's an illness. I really firmly believe it's an illness. I just do. I think there's some kind of, maybe an illness is too strong of a word, maybe a disorder, or maybe some type of imbalance, be it chromosomal or be it hormonal or whatever, or something in the brain. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. They don't know. Nobody knows. Everybody has theory. You know, nobody knows.
And it's not to say that that you would treat them any different.
No, I love my kid no matter what.
But
no matter what.
I've always said, you know, if I started, let's say, you know, dating somebody, and I assume you're a man, but
that's
you're a woman.
Yeah.
You know,
I need a whole other 2-hour conversation.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I have friends who are transgender. You know, the conversation about, you know, is it because they like boys when they're little, so they feel that they must be a girl? You know, I have a friend who liked Caitlyn Jenner, which is an unfortunate example of a human being.
Really, you ain't lying.
But like Caitlyn Jenner, born male, married to a woman, came out as transgender and still is attracted to women and still married to this woman. And it's those cases where I'm really curious as from a medical standpoint. I know, and it's none of us have the answers. Nobody has the answers. It's those cases that I'm really curious when it's not, because, you know, a lot of people wonder if it is tied to sexual identity in some way, you know, but when it doesn't appear to be, because it's not, I'm a boy and I like boys, so that means I must feel like a girl. I'm a boy and I like girls, but I still feel like a girl. Like, those are the cases where I think is really interesting, and I hope by the time that I die that we have more. Shed more light on it.
So why? Because it's interesting. It is really interesting.
And I think when we shed the light on the conversation, we won't have a need to have these discussions of what if, what's that, how do we feel, because we'll know it's a disorder or it's an imbalance. Like, I like the word imbalance because it doesn't necessarily imply any negativity to anything. You know,
sure.
Yeah. It's an imbalance, and this is why we know that it happens. And maybe, you know, it's just like, okay, now we have a medical explanation, and there's nothing you can do about it. We know that it's this specific imbalance in this one place in our body, or this one chromosome, or this one hormones got exposed to when you were in utero, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. It's not any baby's or any mother's fault that her body exposed to extra hormones. It's something that happens, and now we know the answer. And if your body tests positive for whatever, and you're saying as a 9-year-old, I feel like a girl, and you are testing medically positive for this, then we know you're telling the truth.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
And for now, I think that whole hormone blocker crap.
I think that's unhealthy.
Should be.
Yeah, that's not something that should be done. Not to kids. If adults want to do that, that's it. Right. Fine, you're an adult. You know, that's your decision. But children, I'm not a fan of that in children at all.
They lack the maturity.
They lack the maturity. They lack the.
Yeah, no. I'm saying I said, fuck, when did this go off the rails?
We'll take off the rails. It just went deep. That's all.
But that's the whole point. It's like, take free reign. I won't say shit for a while. I'll let them rant. I'm like, just go, man. Like a wild dog, let them off the leash. Go.
It doesn't mean that, you know, we have something against
no,
or gays or lesbians or whatever. So, you know, doesn't.
No, we're just trying to get to the heart of the matter.
But what's awesome about it is that we can have different viewpoints. about things, and it'd be okay. And again, I think that's something else this country has lost. And not just this country, probably the most of the Western world has lost the ability to sit there and have a discussion, come from two different viewpoints, respect where each other's coming from, and not think, oh, well, you're a piece of shit because you think transgenderism is an illness.
I think your next podcast needs to be somebody who voted for Trump to see if you can get through.
If I can find one,
no, we actually did have one.
Louis.
Yeah.
We voted for Trump, but he didn't want to talk about politics.
No, he doesn't.
And that's like I recently had a conversation with a Trump voter, and it still ended up being respectful, but I felt like I couldn't really get into it because I'm like, she's gonna think I'm attacking her.
Which is sad because why not? My attitude is, when did we become so afraid of some intellectual confrontation? Why is that a bad thing?
No,
why is that a bad thing?
No.
Why is that a bad thing? But it's treated that way now.
Yeah,
but it's treated that way now.
Because
when you come at someone and say, "Oh, this isn't right," you're being saying you don't understand.
Because people are overly sensitive. They have too many hang-ups, and they project that onto generalization. We're talking something general, but they'll take that as a personal attack on their beliefs or their stance.
Sometimes it needs to be though. Your beliefs are wrong and your beliefs are shitty.
Well, yeah, I agree. Listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Yeah. I am all for that. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean your opinion's right. It just means you're entitled to it. Yeah. You have something called informed, intelligent opinions, and don't get me wrong, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an opinion I have to agree with. But there are informed, intelligent opinions, and then there's fucking stupidity.
Yeah.
There is. That's a fact. You know,
I think also when it comes to politics, we're attacking people's morals too, because I think it is morally wrong to vote for some people. And when it comes down to attacking morals, then the walls go up, like it's trying to do at the border, and that people do not want to talk about it because you're attacking me and my morals. That's one of the most personal things you can do to attack someone. Right. But at the same time, it's true though. If your morals are different than mine, if you believe that some of the things that our president is saying need to happen or is true, your morals and your values of human life are just plain different, and there's nothing I can do to change that because it's your morals.
But you know, I agree with you, but it also comes down to just, I damn sure didn't vote for Trump, for sure. Like, I can't stand that. I didn't like him even before. I like him less now. But and it's not that I liked Hillary. I didn't like her either. I just thought she was the lesser of two evils. That's why I voted for her. Yeah. But there are some people. Here's the thing, right? There are some people who voted for Trump strictly because you have what you call single issue voters. Right? That basically,
I cannot stand
I know, but you have people that don't know much about politics, don't really know much about where.
But they pick a certain thing
and abortion. He's gonna get it.
Exactly. You know, which our boy did that. You know, and mind you, Louis is no idiot. He's a smart guy, and if you talk to him, you'll find that a lot of our morals are the same. You know, he respects life, he respects all that, but he voted for Trump because he's a person of religion and he doesn't believe in abortion. So one of the main reasons he voted for Trump, probably the main reason he voted for Trump, is because Trump, at the time, proclaimed to be Trump's values change depending on what state he's in. Okay? 1 minute he's anti-abortion, 1 minute he's pro-abortion. 1 minute he's against coal, next minute he's initiating coal. You know, it's ridiculous. But at the time, Trump was on an anti-abortion stance. Right? So he voted for him based on that. And you have a lot of people who vote because they don't look at the politician as a whole. They don't look at everything. They look at one issue that resonates with them.
And when I call them out, I'm saying, so your decision on issue whatever, it could be abortion, it could be gay marriage, it could be immigration, whatever, your stance on that issue you feel is more important than my safety as this, or you feel is more important than my right to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's where people get the morals and the defense of their own morality gets very, very personal because they don't want to admit to me in face to face, yes, I think unborn babies are more important than your dad's ability to walk around in his own streets without getting shot by police officers.
Right. And you know what?
And okay, that's your belief. Say it to my face. Yeah. Say it to my face.
That is the problem.
And people don't want to say that to your face because I think they know that it's wrong.
Well, no, it's kind of skewed. It's like you're never wrong for how you feel. Like you want to kill babies or like I'm gonna tell like murder babies and not abortion. I'm talking like taking.
I don't believe in abortion, but I would never do it myself. But I also don't believe that anybody has the right to tell me that I can't do it.
That's
right, exactly. You're entitled to how you feel, and it's how you feel. How can somebody say, "Well, you're wrong for how you feel"?
Yeah, I will never.
It's whether or not you inflict those ideals on someone, or you expect them to follow your moral standpoint. You know, that's what's wrong.
It's valuing certain lives over others is what it is, and that's where people don't want to talk about.
But we're facing a problem right now is that nobody's actively saying, "All right, I believe in this, and this is why you're wrong." Like the people who are most offended are the ones that are going to come up to you and say, "Well, say that to my face." But in the end, then that's not what's happening. They're getting mad, but they're not coming up to the person and saying who we're mad at, unless it's Trump, because he's the first person we talk about every single time. It's like, yeah, he says a lot of fucked up things. He does a lot of fucked up things. But why are we only going to him? You know what I'm saying? Everybody's so sensitive to talk about problems amongst each other.
He's the loudest about it, that's why.
He's the loudest.
He's the loudest. Paul Ryan, my neighbor, thank God he's stepping down and he's not running for re-election. I think he's one of the true evils in this country's politics system.
I would agree with you. But what makes him more dangerous, that's what made him more dangerous.
He goes to each individual Republican leader and he figures out how to scooch right up next to them, do what he needs to say. He's a snake and he's a weasel, and he has the good-looking white boy farm boy Wisconsin looks behind him, and he has the charm. And I think that is far more insidious than Trump's yelling things from his podium hoping everybody listens to him.
It's far more insidious
Trump believes half the shit that he says. He's doing it because he knows that that's what the people in power believe, and he needs their support.
I think I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I also think it comes down to the showman in Trump. Trump spent a lot of years in the entertainment, and I think he understands. This is where Trump is probably a little smarter than people give him credit for. He understands people. He understands that if I go to this town that is predominantly white, and I say some things like "Make America Great Again," wink, wink, because when you say "again," what time period are we talking about?
And for who?
And for who? Because if you're talking the 60s, 60s wasn't great for people of color. Maybe it's great for you. It wasn't great for people of color. If you're talking the 70s, it was a little better, but still not where it should have been. 80s and 90s was better, and better now for sure. But when you use the word great, when you say great again, but what again are we talking about? What time period? And so it's that those undertones of racism that come out. But when he goes to these places that are predominantly white, he knows to say that, because he knows that all those people, not all, but many of them, have had to stomach us due to, NAACP rules and civil rights rules and, workplace racism and, EEO rules. They had to tolerate us. So they can't go to work and say these things. So they have somebody to say it for them. And so he knows that. It's like when he went to Pennsylvania and was talking to these people about coal. Nobody is going back to coal. This is not happening. It's not even cost effective to convert all our technology to go back to using coal. It's never going to happen. Coal is not happening.
That's what the people want to hear, because that's what their state.
Their bread and butter for years was coal mining. But he went over there and talked about bringing all these jobs back to Pennsylvania. How? You can't do this. But that's what the people wanted to hear. That's what they wanted to hear. When he went to Delaware, oh, I'm against abortion. Dude, when Clinton was in office, Bill Clinton, you were a Democrat. And you were Mr. Pro-choice. Now, you're against abortion. Why? Because you're in Delaware.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? His platform changes depending on who he's talking to and when.
And I think that the people, I don't know, maybe mid-20s to 30s and over who are voting Republican, voting for him, those are the ones who are falling for it. I have so much hope for, the next generation, the 18-year-olds who are not believing in
the 18-year-olds that are
not
the Tide Pod.
The Tide Pod generation.
But I think the next generation, the social media generation.
I'm glad we kind of passed that now. I'm glad it came and went.
I don't think they're falling for some of the BS, some of the bullshit that's coming through. I think they're dumb in a different way. in for some things, but I have hope of the entire generation. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying I think the leaders, I know, from the leaders that are coming out of that generation, I hope for those leaders, the handful of kids. The rest of them might be dumb as hell. I touch a nerve. As long as they're not like David Hogg.
Because that kid is an idiot. I'm gonna tell you why.
Tell me why.
I'm gonna tell you why. The first problem I have with that kid is this. These kids come from these neighborhoods not knowing shit about the dark side of life. They went through a bad thing, and all of a sudden they're experts on drugs. They're not. They don't know drugs. At 13 years old, I've had my friend's brains on me. I know about them. So no one can tell me anything about them. Here's the truth of the matter. Gun reform? Well, first let me say this, to be fair. The problem is the NRA people take any type of law that may in any way, shape, or form make it a little more difficult for them to buy a gun as a violation of their constitutional right, which is bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. On the other side, the Democrats are like, get rid of all the guns and that'll solve all our problems. That's their platform. A lot of them. Not all, but a lot of them. Again, complete and utter bullshit. Here's the truth. The truth is, most of the gun crime that happens in this country are not done with legal guns. They're done with illegal guns. Most of the people going out there committing murders with guns are not people who bought the fucking gun at 7-Eleven. Does that happen? I'm not saying it doesn't. It's happened. Obviously, it's happened. Yeah. But that's not the majority. Right. That is not the majority. And this didn't become an issue until it started happening white people. In the 80s and 90s, when I was 10 years old, I could have told you 5 places to get a 44 Magnum. Off the top of my head. All right? Top of my head. When they were killing each other in those streets. Killing each other. Nobody said a word about guns. Gun violence. Nobody said a word. When New York was the murder capital of the country for like 2 years in a row, nobody said a word about gun reform or gun control. That shit started to happen when some crazy ass kid shot up a white school. We need gun reform. We need gun laws. Bullshit. Bullshit. You making it hard for people who are not mostly committing these crimes to get a gun is not going to stop this shit from happening. At all. At all. But what it is the appearance of doing something. It's a fucking smokescreen. And it's something all politicians do. All of them. Democrats and Republicans both. Because politics is not about truth or fiction. It's about the appearance of truth and fiction. That's what politics is. The appearance of truth and fiction. Of right and wrong. Okay? It makes the soccer mom sleep at night. Oh, thank God they passed this gun reform. Oh, and the soccer moms are going to sleep better. Are your kids really safer? Not even close. Because when someone wants to kill someone, they will. Now, do I think you should buy an AR-15 the way you buy Skittles? No, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, no, that's retarded. I have no problem if you want to be a little bit more selective or make it maybe a little more paperwork involved with buying an automatic assault rifle that could probably shred 30 people pretty quickly. There's nothing that's a dangerous ass weapon. So yes, if you want to regulate it a little more, you're not going to get an argument from me. But the lie that's going to stop gun violence is bullshit. And David Hogg is a kid that what I don't like about him is he approaches this from the standpoint of you're either with us or against us. That's bullshit. The second you approach any kind of debate with that attitude, all you're going to get is hostility, negativity, and nothing will get done. It is an example of where we are in this country. We were just talking about contextualizing and understanding, like, if I don't agree with homosexuality, that doesn't mean I hate you as a person. He comes from that line of either you agree with this or you're against us. Either you agree with gun reform or you don't care about children being killed. That's a bullshit platform. That is a bullshit platform, and he's being used by the Democratic Party to further their agenda. Just like that other kid, Kyle Khrushchev, who I think goes to the same school as him, who was also there during that, still is against gun reform. He's all for the NRA. That kid's being used by the NRA, just like David Hogg's dumbass is being used by the Democrats. And this is becoming a war amongst children because both sides have figured out that if you look at these baby-faced kids and say that they're wrong, something's wrong with you. That's why the news networks are letting them run wild and say whatever the fuck they want, whether it's true or not.
I agree, and it's not that I have hope for this generation because David Hogg is leading the way. I'm seeing the kids that are in my life, whether it be the young kids that I used to mentor, my cousins, they are starting to have these types of discussions at age 16.
Which is
because they're doing their research and they're making their own informed opinions far younger than I was when I made informed opinions.
Sure.
And I'm only 10, 15 years older than some.
Well, they also have access to more information.
And they have access to more information than we did. And that's what makes me have more hope, is that I see younger kids engaging in more intelligent conversations because they're making their decisions, not because mom and dad is a Democrat, so I should be too. Mom and dad is a Republican, so I should be too. Okay. This is what my community votes. This is how I'm going to vote. There are always going to be those people out there, and unfortunately, I think the tie and the correlation between access to education is really what's going to be separating that. But I've seen younger kids having more informed discussions about that kind of thing, which makes me think they're going to be more informed voters. Whether or not they vote for or against how I would vote doesn't matter, as long as you're an informed voter. You tell me the reasons why you're voting for XYZ, and you've thought about it and you've done your research. I don't care how you vote. Well, I mean, it's not I don't care how you vote. I still may care, but I'm like, you know what?
But I can
you thought about this. You researched this. Okay, respect.
Right. It was like when McCain was running against Obama. I voted for Obama, but I respect McCain. I do. Not that I agree with all his politics. I don't. But I respect McCain. He served our country. He fought in war.
Yep.
And there are some of his politics that I do agree. It's not all, but some. Yep. And although I voted for Obama, and I don't regret that decision. Was Obama perfect? Not at all. No politician is. No president
no
is.
politician ever will be perfect.
Will ever be. But I think, ultimately you judge a president by the state of the country when he walked in and the state of the country when he walked out. And I think Obama left things better than what he found.
Yeah.
Especially with Obamacare. Because I believe in that. It's not perfect, it needs work, but it's better than what was there before.
People are willing to cross that party line and actually work on it, I think.
I 100% agree.
But they will not cross it.
100% agree with you. 100% agree with you.
And they won't until we get rid of the two-party system.
I agree with you. I've only been saying that forever.
Yeah.
This two-party system is insanity. It's nonsense. But, the thing is, as far as the politics now, you could have made an argument as to why you voted for McCain, and I could respect it. Okay, I get that. I don't see that for Trump. And nor have I found a single Trump voter, our own uncle included, to come and tell me, give me 5 logical reasons why you voted for this guy. Other than the fact that you think somebody's going to put more money in your pocket. And no one can answer that call. I've yet to meet the person. So what you're saying is true about informed decisions. What scares me about this generation, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be some shining lights. Maybe your cousins or the kids you grew up with are some shining lights. Yeah. There's always going to be these hopeful. They have some sense.
There's some real idiots in this generation too.
This generation is the generation with the shortest attention span. They cannot focus on anything for more than 30 seconds without doing this. This generation doesn't care about. This generation is the outrage generation. You're more right depending upon how outraged you are. And the stuff that they're outraged about doesn't mean shit. Nonsensical. It's all nonsensical. When I watch this generation, I see the biggest bunch of idiots I think I've ever seen. And my generation wasn't full of geniuses. We were far from geniuses in our generation. Our generation wasn't full of geniuses. But these kids, it's like their mind is all over the place. I don't see focus. I don't see commitment. I see, this bothers me. This is the most self-entitled generation I've ever seen. They're entitled to everything. They're entitled to expensive sneakers. They're entitled to it's the entitlement generation. This is the generation that says fuck you to mom. That's this generation.
And then I blame the mother for allowing it.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. That's the generation.
I blame the parents for the entitlement.
For sure, but I also blame the child psychology movement. That movement has produced, we produce a generation of kids on riddling. That's what we produce with them. This don't spank your kid. Listen, all kids need to ask.
Whoop that ass.
The belt is a teacher. You know what the belt teaches kids? There are consequences to your actions. And sometimes those consequences hurt. That is a euphemism for life.
Well, what I think is that this generation needs consequences, whatever those consequences may be to them. For my dad, it was the belt and the switch. But my dad knew that wouldn't work for me and my sister.
You gotta know you're a kid.
You gotta know your kid.
You know,
and so my dad made a choice. He never once spanked us. He never once raised a hand at us, and instead he used consequences in a far different way that made an impact on us.
Sure.
So if the consequence that's going to make a difference on your child is the belt or the switch, as long as it's not maiming your child,
of course, there's limits to everything. You don't beat them to a pulp.
To me, I say,
there's
a line, you can toe it, you can get in the gray area a little bit, but once you cross the line, it's a whole different story. But if that's not what makes a difference to your kid in terms of consequence, then you need to find a different way. And that's the problem with this generation, is that parents are not willing to take the time and energy to figure out what is going to be of consequence to their kids. Because if it doesn't work for them, all you're doing is beating your kid for no reason.
Yeah. Well, the problem is we also have a generation of parents terrified of raising their children. Because, nowadays it's like the kids can call the cops and say you're abusing them. It's wacky. Everything has just gone completely wacky. It's a wacky time. If you spank a kid, it's abuse. No, it's called discipline. Another thing too, another problem that we have, and I think it's systemic. Everybody gets a trophy nonsense.
Oh,
no, that's bullshit. When I was a kid, I was competitive. I fought and I did it all. If I fought and lost, I lost. I got my ass whooped. That's what I got. What I got was a lesson, and I was taught by my teacher, whoever it was. What did you do wrong? Okay, next time this is what you do. That's how you grow. That's not just getting better at this sport.
Yeah.
A lot of women are kind of funny with this, but sports definitely is a euphemism for life in the sense where you work harder and you get better, right? Which in life it teaches you work harder at something, you get better. When you win in sports, let's say you're a baseball kid. The team gets to the championship and you win. You worked hard for that. It took teamwork to get that. You learn to work with others and to strive as a team, and you learn the value of hard work and dedication and teamwork and all that. Right? When everybody gets a trophy, you just have a place.
I hated that shit. I wanted to play baseball.
You should have played baseball. Listen, women softball players are better than men. I'm telling you, they are. But everybody gets a trophy crowd. The problem with that is this: you're not supposed to work hard for it.
Because you're going to get an award.
And I think it stems from racism, and I think that when white people, and especially rich white people, all of a sudden, had people of color, lower income people who were more talented than their kids because of just how the cookie crumbles, how the talent is divvied up by God or whoever, whatever it is. All of a sudden, they're not getting the first places anymore that they have gotten for years. They're not getting that top dog, that top spot. They're not doing whatever, and they started demanding because they had the money to fund these things. My kid needs to get the trophy too, otherwise I'm pulling my money elsewhere. Then it trickled down into now and then once, those teams, that school district over there, they got all their kids doing things. Why can't we do that over here? Otherwise we're going to go to that school district, and then this district loses that money. I think it all trickled down from white people being insecure about their children and their children's ability to actually do work for themselves and be successful on their own. They were not going to be able to count on the fact that they were white, male, privileged, and rich to get them through. They were going to have to be talented and actually work for a living. And now my kid's not being...
Do you believe in white privilege?
Do I believe in white privilege? 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm funny with that. I think there's privilege that comes along with money, for sure. But it's not. Well, here's my thing with that. Yes, there are some white privileged people, no doubt. Yeah, no argument. But I don't think being white means being privileged.
Do you think it's a class privilege versus a white privilege?
I do, and the reason I do is because there are plenty of white people in this country living just as bad, if not worse, than any Latino or black.
Right.
Plenty.
Right. Yeah,
plenty.
absolutely.
Let's not forget that most of the people on welfare in this country are white. Although, Republicans will tell you different. They'll tell you it's Mexicans. But you understand what I'm saying, that they're mostly white. So, you have a lot of white people in this country who live poor, who work hard, who bust their ass, who understand hard work and dedication and all those things. Because nobody gave them anything. There are plenty of white people like that. Plenty. And then you have those with money.
Yeah.
Right? And with money comes privilege, no matter what you are. Right. Puerto Rican, black, whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? With money comes privilege. I think at one point there was such a thing as white privilege during the civil rights time. The Martin Luther King, Malcolm X era going through, even through the 80s. But now I don't see that. What I see is class. I see financial disparity. What I see more now is a financial inequity, inequality through financial position. I think more it's a class thing where people with money, like I know kids who were Latino who came from like the parents, one father was a lawyer, they had money, plenty of money, grew up getting whatever they wanted. And they had a serious sense of privilege and entitlement. I don't think it's a white thing. I think it's a class thing.
I still think there is white privilege out there. I think class privilege is becoming more prevalent, for sure. But there are people out there who inherently, because of the systems that this country has created, have an easier time because they're white and male. Have an easier time.
In some states, for sure. In some states, for sure.
And say whether it's something as simple as there's a great video of a white guy walking down the street with an assault weapon, and the police officers come up to him.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
And they go, "Hey, sir, what are you doing with that weapon?"
Yeah, I saw that.
And then there's a black guy walking down the same street 10 minutes later with
the
exact same weapons, and they jumped out of their car, and their guns were on him, and they said, "Down, throw the weapon down, hands up." That to me is because of the way, again, another whole separate conversation of policing. But that to me is an example because it didn't matter what class they were. He had privilege because he was white and male, and I think the white privilege is most prevalent in this country when it comes to our justice system and our policing system. I think class privilege is a little bit more everywhere else, but when it comes to justice and policing, that's where white privilege still lives, and I don't know if it will ever change because the police system was founded in this country on the purpose of monitoring and keeping the blacks down. That's in the South, especially.
Okay, all right. The South, yeah.
In the South, especially.
On the South.
I know it's a little bit different here in New York because your immigrant groups here in New York were far different, and those were the ones that were historically. It was that it was.
Well, you had the 5 points.
Exactly.
You had the 5 points in New York where one was Italian, one was Irish.
Exactly, and I know it's a little bit different here, but the police systems here in New York, in the South, that's where the police systems really became groups of men traveling around with weapons with the sole purpose of policing people. Here in New York, it was beat sticks. It wasn't until in the South it was always we need our guns on them to show them that we are more powerful than them because we're white and they're black. That's what the modern day police system was really born of. Eventually, they became nationwide everywhere.
Wow, that's an interesting. I mean, you're not wrong. Historically, like what you're saying, I for sure, I get what you're saying. But I think it's not so black and white. And
not anymore, no.
Yeah, well, even back then, because for a time, before we called them police officers, we called them constables. That was the original name, right? Every town had a constable, right? And that was the person who made sure the town was safe and all that other stuff. And the purpose of those people was really to keep the town safe. That was the purpose. Along with that power came some abuse of power, for sure, especially against runaway slaves and things like that. You saw it all the time, like when they would escape from the South and go to the North. They got caught, they were done. Also, during the time of the Ku Klux Klan, if we want to take it further, a lot of them, the Ku Klux Klan in its early inception, they were pretty intelligent. They understood that in order to keep control, you have to penetrate government, law enforcement, all these different things. Right? Which is why in the South, the Ku Klux Klan still has such a hold like in their government, right? So, I mean, Martin Luther King Day became a thing in Arizona, just not that long ago, some years ago. So, there's true, but the original purpose of the police department, I believe, was meant to serve and protect. That just didn't mean black people and Hispanics. That meant the ruling class, which was white at that time. Yeah. And with that came abuse of power. After years went on and things changed as time
there's the systems going into place that are creating the white privilege.
Well, I believe that those systems weren't invented for that. I believe that the people in charge of those systems corrupted those systems. You know what I mean? I don't think the system was invented for, to keep blacks down, to keep Hispanics down. I believe the people in charge of those systems did that, manipulating that system. And so I think there's a difference. I do think there's a difference.
Yeah, we're getting into semantics about, and that's not mixing it backward, but it's a difference of the purpose of the system and the people in charge of that system. And when the purpose of the system and the original people who are corrupting are all within like the initial 20 to 50 years of that system coming in place, it gets very diluted and convoluted because you might have had a corrupted person decide, I'm going to bring this system to this town, and it's corrupt from the beginning. You know,
sure.
And so the purpose of that particular and or that state or that city or whatever, because I agree that overall, yes, the point is to keep people safe. Whether or not it's we're only keeping the whites safe because we want to tamp blacks down, or we're only keeping the whites safe because that's what our community is. It's going to vary by county by county, it's going to vary state by state. But that's where I think the white privilege lives in 2018, in our policing system, in our justice system, and there's no way we're ever going to reform it 100%. It's not going to happen. I don't believe it will, and if it does, it's not happening in my lifetime. I think that there will be
change will happen incrementally over time.
We'll get good people coming in, and eventually we'll change, but I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime.
No.
I 100% believe there's still going to be some police officers who are trained to have inherent bias.
Right.
Like this Starbucks thing that happened the other day.
Starbucks thing.
2 black men were sitting there waiting for their white business partner.
Oh, yes.
That was in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I heard of
Pennsylvania. And the store manager said, I'm sorry, you can't wait here without ordering something. And they were like, our friend's 10 minutes away. We're trying to, he said he was going to buy us coffee, or whatever it was. And so she called the police on them because it was trespassing. That was her first instance of racial profiling and bias. The 2 black guys sitting there, they must be up to something.
Yeah.
The police officers did not need to arrest. They arrested and booked those guys. My dad worked for 34 years in criminal justice. He said, yes, technically, it may be in that state or those laws or whatever. Once somebody has been asked to leave and they're not choosing to go, it's trespassing. But they did not put up a physical fight. They did not get loud. They just said, we're waiting here for our friends.
They could have just escorted them out.
They could have just escorted them out. And then if those gentlemen chose to then start physically fighting and physically laying hands, then that's a savage charge.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one where that's their own decision they need to make as men of color. Am I going to fight back against a police officer?
Right.
You need to make that decision, you know.
Right.
But if all they're sitting there and if all they're doing is, sitting there, they could have escorted them out, maybe even in handcuffs. But then once they got out, my dad said they didn't need to arrest and they didn't need to book.
I don't doubt that at all.
But, if the only way to physically remove them from the property was putting them in handcuffs and removing them because they're holding onto these chairs and they're refusing to go, that's one thing. But, when their business partner shows up and says, look, I'm here, they're waiting for me here, it's like, okay, these guys are telling the truth. However, the manager has asked them to leave. Yes. They are technically trespassing. Yes, at this point. For whatever reason that the manager asked them to leave. It's stupid. It shouldn't have happened. Starbucks CEO said, no, it shouldn't have happened. And we apologize for it. They did not need to arrest him. It's just, it comes down to apology.
Yeah. What's
that going to do for you?
Yeah. They got a lawyer.
I hope they sue the shit out of those guys.
Yeah.
I have an audition.
We got it.
We've been here now for hours.
But, you guys ran away with it. I didn't want to interrupt and say,
he kept looking at his clock like, okay, they're going to keep going.
Because you know what? The goal was, maybe an hour and 15, maybe an hour and a half.
You can edit down whatever you want to edit down.
Yeah, no. And I leave it just the way it is. But it's just like, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, it's time to go now, and then just leave.
I gotta wake my ass up and be at Midtown by 7:45. So.
It has been. I gotta say before we run out of here, it's been a pleasure meeting you guys again.
Yes.
Both of you are awesome. I hope to see you guys again, just hanging out. It would be great if we all get together and hang out. My wife thinks you're great, by the way. We'll get together, we'll hang out. I'm looking forward to seeing everything you do. When you guys start doing your projects and you start getting them out there, come back on the show. We'll throw them out there. We'll advertise for you guys.
Yeah,
we'll support you 100%. We wish you the best. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And, like I said, he pretty much just took the fucking words out of my mouth. So thank you. I don't have to say shit now.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you for coming to the corner. Goodbye, y'all. I don't have a voice here. Peace.
Good night.